Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City's Thursday, April 27th, 2023 docket. Today, we are hearing 4 cases that are protests of renewal of liquor licenses. The first case is Fisherman's Wharf Inner Harbor Incorporated, trading as Moe's Fisherman's Wharf. Premises are located at 219 President Street. Holders of a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, and under the provisions of Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-1801 and 4406, a petition to protest the renewal, which is signed by 10 or more residents, commercial tenants, who are not holders or applicants for any license issued under the Alcoholic Beverages Article. Real estate owners in the immediate vicinity of the licensed premises has been filed against the establishment. As per the Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-1805, the board shall consider only issues with respect to a specific complaint as to the operation of the licensed premises. And Mr. Chairman, we have identified the licensee's representative is here, and then there are 3 individuals who have wish to testify against the renewal. Member from Councilman Cohen's office, Gia Blatterman, and Dan Weiser from the Little Italy Neighborhood Association.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Council, you want to identify yourself for the record, please?
The record, Melvin J. Kadensky, 320 North Charles Street, representing the licensee.
And who's with you this morning?
I have with me Mr. Tony Asadi, Mr. Hassan.
I'm sorry, the first name is Asadi?
Last name.
Asadi, A-S-S-A-D-I.
Good morning.
That's the last name. Good morning.
Okay.
Hassan Razai.
And how do you say?
He's the manager of the thing. Hassan.
Hazan?
A-S-S-A-N.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
He's with the security company.
Okay, Mr. Ford. Good morning. Okay, and let's have the other 3 who want to testify come forward, please. We'll get to you in a moment, but would everybody who's going to testify raise your right hands, please?
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Mr. Kadensky, I know you filed a motion to dismiss the complaint. The board has considered it, and I'm going to defer on it and hold on and hear the testimony, okay?
Just as long as it's part of the record, it's fine. Okay, I'm all right.
I'll rule at the end, okay? Okay. Who's going to begin with the petition? Okay. Support of the petition. Your name, sir, please?
Dan, and the last name is Sutherland Weiser.
Mr. Weiser, okay, go ahead. You have to speak into the mic because we're on the on television.
Do you want me to go ahead with my testimony now?
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to stand here, Mel? Or? Good morning, Chairman Matrosini, Commissioners Greenfield and Reisinger. I'm Dan Sutherland Weiser, the president of the Little Italy Neighborhood Association, but I'm here on behalf of the association, the Little Italy Community Organization, headed by Gia Blatterman, and our neighbors in Little Italy. I stood before you 1 year ago tomorrow at the initial liquor license protest hearing for Moe's Seafood. At that hearing, you directed Moe's and the community to come to an agreement, a memorandum of understanding. I asked what would happen if Moe's refuses and if we don't come to an agreement. And you said we could come back here before you. Here we are, and thank you for scheduling this hearing. Do you mind if I take my mask off while I testify?
I don't control that. I'd love to take mine off.
Okay, I'll leave it on.
But I'm told I start coughing sometimes with this, and I
That's fine.
have to take it off.
I will also let you know I wear hearing aids, so sometimes with the mask it's a little difficult to
I'll try to
understand,
speak
so
up,
I
though.
may repeat.
Okay.
You're well acquainted with our case, therefore I promise to be fairly brief and answer any questions that you have. The question today, of course, is why are we here? Why is there not an agreement? You're well aware of our many efforts over the past year to come to an agreement. Those efforts continued even until this morning and over the past couple of weeks as Gia Blatterman, who runs Little Italy Community Organization, reached out to Moe's, and we attempted mediation through the Baltimore Community Mediation Center. Both efforts came up empty.
Well, let me ask you a question, because my understanding is you don't have an MOU, but can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. That the licensee did come up with some self-imposed restrictions, but you didn't meet on every issue. Is that correct?
The licensee has acquiesced and agreed to many of the conditions, almost all of our conditions, as I've outlined in
But you don't have a signed
this
MOU.
chart. But my understanding is that the Liquor Control Board will only...
Please speak into the microphone for the
Well-
record. Sorry.
It's my understanding that the Liquor Control Board will only accept an MOU.
I'm not sure of that. I mean,
And we would like to make sure that the actions that they have taken, that there'll be a commitment to do those in the future. Our concern, as I will show in my testimony, is that once the focus is no longer on them, that these actions will disappear.
Can I interrupt you for
Yes,
just a
sir.
second? First of all, I don't know where you got the notion that we would only accept a written MOU. We do like to have written memorandums of understanding because that's a very good way to do things. But let me ask Mr. Kadensky, am I right that they have created self-imposed restrictions? Can you move that microphone?
On the motion to dismiss, as I added, there's a letter there that Mr.
I read his letter, yes.
And I guess we went to maybe 5 or 6 meetings. After a while, it got to be a torture. The
On
gentleman-
both sides, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then I don't, they didn't have any Italian food. That's the worst thing they had there. It's the worst thing they could do in Italy. But he has agreed, as indicated, he has his own private security, which he spends $55,000 a year. He put new cameras in, up to $30,000, high def.
I read his letter, but let me ask you,
But-
so is he willing to have those
He's willing to
restrictions
continue-
be on his license?
He's willing to continue to have security, although, let me just preface that, I don't want to go. There was a meeting in which there was discussion that Little Italy was going to have a plan, such as Inner Harbor East, where all the restaurants, other people would have security, and they all pitch in. I never heard a word after that, so he's maintained his own, put lighting in the alleys where he didn't have to. Department of Public Works never showed up to do anything. So all these things he's agreed to do, and he will agree to do, and I got pictures where he put all new lighting up and so forth, so that's the
But
bottom.
you didn't answer my question. It's short of an MOU. He's imposed these on himself. Is he willing to have these restrictions part of his license?
See, that's hard, I have to ask,
Well, why don't you take a few moments and talk with your clients, okay?
And just for everyone, please do your best to move the microphone as close to you when you're speaking, including Mr. Kadensky, just so Charm TV can hear the noise as clearly as possible.
talking with Mr. Asadi's here, he said they're asking why they should have a license if no other place in Little Italy has it on the license.
Why they should what?
Have it on the license if no other place in Little Italy has it on the license.
Well, they have, I mean, I think there are places that have MOUs, aren't there?
I don't know.
I mean, how does he know?
I haven't seen, well, he says that he's been in a restaurant. Wait a second, you can only, one person at a time can talk. Just, why don't you get up here and talk, because you're where most of me. Give your name and address first.
Tony Asadi, 300 West Pratt Street, Baltimore, Maryland.
And what is your position with Moe's?
I'm a consultant of Mo. I'm in the restaurant business. I'm a person who opened up originally Fisherman's Wharf at 219 President Street 36 years ago, approximately. And Mo being my cousin, I always overlook every matter in Little Italy. And the main thing is what we are doing everything on a good faith of safety. And I came in to take care of their, what they call issue. I looked at it as a problem and I solved it. All right? I'm a problem solver. Okay? I'm the guy that look at it logically and go after it. Fort Security was hired a day after the meeting that we had last year. I told Miss Gia right here, I said, I am in the picture and I will take care of this. I have document that I did on a good behavior. I went to every meetings of them that some of them did not even have anything to do with Little Italy. All right? And you can check with Miss Gia that everything that they talk in Lena has to do with Little Italy. I don't think so. They talk about trees, benches of a Scarlet Place. Never been part of Little Italy. When we joined Little Italy 36 years ago, we weren't even, they wouldn't even consider us of part of Little Italy. Mimo, Giovanni of Boccaccio, they said, you're not even part of Little Italy. I got Mr. Dan here, resident of Little Italy 5 years, 6 years ago, joined the Little Italy community as a neighbor. He has every problem with us. I don't have no idea what is the reason. My thing is, you want something signed, get every other restaurant to sign.
I didn't ask you if you want to sign. I just asked you, you've imposed restrictions on yourself in order to meet their complaints. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, I want
And
everything to
you're
work.
doing it now, right?
Right.
So are you willing to abide by that?
Well, what we did is going to go forward. The city is not getting better, it's getting worse.
Okay.
I might ask Mr. Ford to add another security to the block.
I'm not saying that you can't add security. I'm asking you whether the restrictions that you've imposed on yourself, you're willing to agree you will continue to do.
Yes.
Okay. And if we
I
may,
don't want to interrupt you, but I think maybe a better word.
Speak into the mic.
Mel, Mr. Kadensky, Mike,
Me again?
it's the microphone.
The cordless mics, I don't know what the story's up.
We'll put in a request to the controller.
I think a better word, they're saying the obligations they've accepted, restrictions mean that you're restricting the license, the
if
obligations
it's
would.
my language, I apologize.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, I think that's where they're having some.
Okay.
problem.
All I'm saying is you've obligated yourself to do certain things. You've given me a list of them, right?
Yes.
It's not everything they asked for, but it's a lot of what they asked for.
Yes.
Are you willing to have that part of your license so that if you don't continue to abide by this, we can come in and have further discussions about it?
Well, I don't want this as a part of license
Okay. Well,
because
so you're
this
not-
restriction is not for the rest of the restaurants in Little Italy.
They're not in front of me right now. No one's complaining about them.
Right.
You're in front of me right now. Do you want your license renewed or not? That's the question.
Yes.
Okay. So you're not willing to commit to these obligations.
We are going forward to do all of this.
I'm confused, Mr. Konecki. I think you need to take a few moments and explain to your client what I'm asking. Why don't you step back?
Quickly.
Don't screw it up.
Why?
I'm trying to work something out here. Yeah, let's hold on for a minute.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I think the bottom line is they are agreed to continue what they have, but they don't want anything on their license that nobody else has. I think that's the bottom line.
Well, I don't know what everybody else has, and I'm not going to judge it based on what everybody else has because I don't have a protest against anyone else but Mo's. So if
And
they
that's
if they want
what
my
they're
vote
saying.
for a renewal, they better think hard about it. But, okay, let's go. Now I'm going to hear from the others.
Can I just say something quickly? Maybe there's a misunderstanding on what goes on the license, okay? This would be part of the record. Would that not be,
It would function just like an MOU. If they
Right.
didn't live up to it, there could be a violation cited. They'd have to come before the board and explain what's going on.
I think the confusion is maybe he thinks it's going to be written on the license, I don't know. But just to back up a little bit, we have a few MOUs in Little Italy for the restaurants. They're not on their licenses, but it's a record that's kept with the license.
Are you sure they're not on their licenses? Because I almost always ask that they be made part
With
of
the
the license.
MOUs that we have, no, because I know I've done a few of them myself, and it usually would say the music ends, with live entertainment, yes, we give it to you.
So
but
you're
it-
satisfied if this is not on the license? As long as they're committed to it?
Well, as long as it's on part of the record, because the record, the MOUs are in the record, they're not on the license, but when push comes to shove, that record is legal.
So, Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
just-
maybe I can clarify. I think our normal practice is to attach an MOU to the license. Does it say on the body of a license
what I'm
MOU?
thinking.
It does not.
No, that's what I
suspect.
thought, maybe that's what
Okay.
the
No,
confusion is.
I think the folks with Mo's, perhaps that's the confusion that they have. It's not written on your license, but it's a part of the record, and it's an agreement that you have with the
With-
community that is attached to your license. So it could be, you could be in violation if you don't, for instance, maintain a Baltimore City Police book. So,
Or a log, but
but I don't know that.
the point is, he says he's willing to continue with it. Our little misstep is, are you willing for it to be part of the record? Because part of the record makes it legally part of the license. Am I correct?
I'm not sure what the distinction you're making is, but okay, yes. All right, but the answer is no, right? So we're going to go forward.
So you'll hear from my testimony that they have completed the actions that we've asked, but only when they've been faced with a consequence. I did want to mention that Mr. Chrismalis, Mr. Ackerhammer, Councilmember Zeke Cohen, Baltimore City Police Department, Department of Transportation were all helpful in our negotiations. You received a letter of support for an MOU from Senate President Bill Ferguson, and delegates Clippinger, Lewis, and Edelson were all in agreement with the board. There should be an MOU. So the question is, why won't they sign? And we believe it's because it requires a long-term commitment to the community. We're asking the board to provide a one-week window for Moe's to sign an MOU or to face some kind of consequences, a fine, a license suspension. To make this easier, I've spelled out the terms of the MOU. Each of you now have that. There's nothing new here. We've discussed these items for 1 year, and Moe's, as I've mentioned, is actually doing them. After last year's murder of a man who exited Moe's Seafood and faced with a renewal hearing, Mr. Manichin hired a security guard, Mr. Ford. It's been a positive addition. However, Moe's won't commit to keeping the security guard in an MOU. And the question we're all asking is why? Months of negotiation between the community and Moe's appear to be cordial, respectful, and fruitful. In fact, we had an agreement that Mr. Kudinsky wrote was one that he could present to his client. We now know why those negotiations continued in a positive way. Moe's faced consequences, a hearing over an underage drinking violation that occurred 1 year ago today. Shortly after that hearing in October, when Moe's was fined, Mr. Manichin removed Mr. Kudinsky from the case, and his team refused to meet with us. There were no longer consequences from the violation, so there was no need to continue in good faith. For 1 year, we've requested still pictures from Moe's cameras to prove that they work. As you're aware, we were eventually given pictures, but the date stamp was wrong. It was from 2009. Moe's claimed the cameras worked, but it was just a date stamp problem. They promised to fix it. Nothing happened for months. Why? We know why. There was no deadline. There was no hearing. There were no consequences. But after we announced this protest hearing, suddenly the camera date stamp problem went away and is now evidenced by pictures that I'm sure they have with them. If not, I have them. They now work. Daily security reports distributed on a weekly basis have essentially stopped, but they were doing them and they were helpful. Why? We don't know why. Moe's has agreed to do what we want, but they've only agreed when faced with consequences. Because of this, we believe that if no action is taken today, if there are no possible consequences, Moe's positive responses to bad activity will fade away, and we will have no continuing proof of working cameras. Trash and feeding of rodents will again become a problem. Burned out lights won't be replaced, and eventually, as has happened in the past, the security guard will be removed. So as you ask, why is the little community here? We also ask why. I have an email from Mr. Asadi, which details actions they've taken and said that they will continue. He writes that the only paper that Mr. Manichin will sign is a bill of sale for the property. I ask why. Well, it's clear, again, without consequences, Mr. Manichin won't make a commitment in an official document that will be accepted by the Liquor Board. No consequences equal no action. Commissioners, as you know, a liquor license is not simply a license to sell liquor. A liquor license is much more. It is a privilege and it is a responsibility. A privilege to the owner that comes with a responsibility to the city, the community, and the neighborhood. If it did not come with responsibilities, there'd be no reason to have the Liquor Control Board. It is clear that Mr. Manichin is okay with the privilege of the liquor license, but not okay with the responsibility to Little Italy. Without consequences, Moe's is not motivated to act. During the past year, there has thankfully been a reduction in the number of incidents reported by citizens. It is because of the positive actions taken by Moe's. Therefore, we're asking that the board consider Maryland Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-1804.1, which reads, when determining whether a license should be renewed, and if so, whether any conditions should be attached, the board may consider the performance of the license holder for the 4-year period immediately before the date of the renewal application. Again, we are asking for a 1-week period for Moe's to sign the document or face a consequence, a fine, a license suspension for disregarding and disparaging the board's directive of 1 year ago. Commissioners, I'd like to end on this note. I've appreciated getting to know Mr. Asadi and Mr. Rezzi. They regularly attend, as Tony mentioned, the Little Italy Neighborhood Association meetings. We've worked together and negotiated in a respectful way. I believe once an MOU is signed, we can work together even closer. At our last community meeting on April 18th, 3 members of the Baltimore City Housing Authority joined us at our meeting, at our meeting place across from Moe's. One of them mentioned how she enjoys going to Moe's for her seafood salad for lunch. I'm glad to hear that. We want Moe's to be successful and a destination establishment. But now, after a year of negotiations, all we need is Mr. Manishin's signature on a memorandum of understanding. Please help us do what needs to get done. Thank you.
Okay. I have a question for you, though. Did you send a draft MOU?
There were drafts, plural, that went back and forth that we're considering. And Mr.
So he was willing to sign something at once?
There was one that we thought we could recommend, but he decided it came a little too personal in one go.
Okay.
I have a question for Mr. Sutherland
Go ahead.
Weiser. So, Mr. Sutherland Weiser, I want to make sure we're clear on this, on the record here. There is no dispute on anything between the parties. In other words, Moe's has met every one of your requests.
We can accept the actions that they've taken to sign an MOU. There's other things which we would have preferred to have in there, but as I've handed to you, and I have the formal MOU with me, which is just like this, but in a signature form, we are good with that.
Okay. And so, Mr. Kadinsky, your client understands that MOUs are something that this board accepts, and as we discussed in the earlier part of the hearing, that it's commonplace for us to attach to the license, right?
Correct.
So what am I missing?
And I'm missing that he's willing to do these things, but he doesn't want to sign an MOU. He thinks he's being targeted by a group of people of an organization that don't necessarily represent all the people in that area. And to have one group dictate to him how he runs his business when he's been there for 40 years, he's got some people, as indicated, come there, the concierges send them there from the hotels and everything else. He thinks it's completely unwarranted in this case. And if you look at the past year, it's been without incident, and there should be no reason why he can't go forward on it. And in my motion, I mentioned it has to be on a specific complaint, and there are none in this case.
Thank you.
May I?
Yeah, I just,
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry.
yeah. I go along with my colleague, Commissioner Aaron, but what I'm seeing here, even when I look at the record with the violations, I think the point is that it is a privilege to have that license. And the thing is, I'm saying that I wouldn't be worried about what other bars or restaurants are doing with this community. To the consultant and to the attorney, is that you want to keep your business open, move forward. And the thing is, if you're willing to abide by this, I think the word I'm using is being a good neighbor, business neighbor, to work together and sit down. And I think the word MOU will scare the business or the consultant that he's being mandated or forced. I don't think that's what they're looking at. I think they just want to sit down with you and say, look, this is our concern. You even stated that you're going to go forward with it. So we're sitting here, if you could just sit down as good neighbors and try to work this out with the MOU, I don't think the MOU is going to come back and close you down. You've got to look at the business, not worry about all the other bars and restaurants and businesses around you. You got to look at Moe's. What's best for Moe's? The best thing for Moe's, as I'm concerned, is to be a good neighbor. And if you're willing to go along with this, why is there a fear to sign the MOU? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I just, if I,
May I,
just, one second.
Go ahead.
You know, I have to say, Mr. Kudinski, you know, one of the things that occurred to me is the community is showing, I think, a tremendous amount of good faith here. They're not coming in and saying, you know, don't renew the license. They're actually saying, give us a week to try and get this, because obviously there's a pattern and practice by your licensee that they need to be held to the feet to the fire. So I'm struck with this case. I mean, your motion to dismiss aside, which the chairman will get to, but you know, I'm just struck with that. They're I think being pretty reasonable here.
And that's a point of view that
Sure.
you have. And I've, for 50-some years, always objected to the word "the community group." It's a community group in an area. If it's a plebiscite and he would have to bring down all his customers here, they are a member of a community also. So why wouldn't they also have the right to have theirs? But they don't do that. We can't have one group dictate to a licensee in the case. And it's not as though there's, assuming as to why the petition was filed, talk about crime, I mean, with 12 people in 12 hours were shot in Baltimore City. It had nothing to do with them. Donuts on the street, nothing to do.
Yeah, no.
Why should he, and he's the only one has security. And he's paying for security. Nobody's come and said, we've got all the other restaurants, 40 of them, and if we put 20,000 apiece up, we'll have 3 people walking. He went out on his own, did that. You know, the thing about rodents and pests not feeding the pigeons, I've never seen that anywhere. I mean,
All right, that's not before us. What did you want to say, Ms. Meyer? I've got to move on. Go ahead.
okay, I just want to say, if the document that they gave to the board, if they're willing to give that to the board without a signature, because I don't know, I think the sticky part from what I've been working on was a signature.
I understand.
Would this be legally binding to them?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to.
Okay, so, I mean, we want to all work together here and help each other. And before there was a mention of community seeking to get security in our community. We haven't gotten it yet, and we're working on it. It might take a couple of years. So what he's doing with the security is needed and wanted. So
I understand.
let me know if this is legal without a signature.
Okay. So, I don't know what, Mr. Kenneth, here's the way I look at this. A year ago, there was a protest against Moe's. And there was the board's conclusion was that they needed to work something out with the groups who protested it. Asked you to do that. You went to a series of meetings with them. At the conclusion of those meetings, while you didn't reach a written agreement, Moe's put in place various obligations that it was willing to undertake. We come back a year later, and they're doing that, but what I'm hearing from Mr. Weiser is that they only do it when their feet are to the fire. And now when you come in front of me today and I ask you whether they're willing to continue and to be obligated by the things they've agreed to, they're saying no. And if we renew the license, their feet are off the fire. So I'm beginning to believe him. So explain to me where we are.
well, we're basically, as to what he set out, they would agree to go ahead and continue that from when Mr. Asadi and Mr. Resing and the security people have said, and they've been more than helping out in the area. But, you know, you would read for a protest of rule, there has to be really something that you can sink your teeth in as to what happened. You don't have it here.
Well,
You
see, I think I can
and that's why I
read.
want a part of the record.
I understand that in the last year there's been one violation.
But
which-
that happened before the other hearing.
Right.
Okay, I got it.
But to me, the board itself imposed an obligation a year ago. And we're here because we asked everybody to proceed in good faith at that time and try to resolve these issues. And that's a specific complaint to me from the community that there can't be good faith if nobody's willing to commit to what they've already said they'd do.
But
That's
not
what
a-
they're arguing.
But that's not a specific complaint as to how you
You could
run
tell the circuit
your
court that.
business. It's only in, well, we may, I mean, say,
You may
listen,
have
we're going
to.
this guy. Now, I don't, want to have to go through that, and then the place will continue to operate, with or without a license. Then the question is, maybe they don't do any of that. Then what do you do then?
I
You know,
don't-
you have no recourse over it. Certainly if they were running a bad place and so forth. They spend a lot of time and money. I got pictures showing all the lighting they put up. Nobody did that. And there's not been any problems, and albeit there've been all around there, there've been shootings and things. So, yeah, I mean, that's the best I can tell. I don't know if they want to add anything.
Well,
Go ahead, get up here if you want to say something.
okay.
I've got 3 more hearings, so let's get this going.
I'm a problem solver. That's why I came into this picture. How about we have a signed contract with Ford Security going forward for next 2-3 years, whatever? Would that be good?
No, I don't think I appreciate you're a problem solver, but I don't know that we're all on the same page trying to solve the same set of problems. You actually appear to be a problem solver in committing to this. What we're asking is for you to solve the problem in trying to agree to an MOU, which, again, respectfully, other licensees do around the city. And it just so happens that this community, has the ability to protest, and this follows something from a year ago. So I think that respectfully, I think you're missing something here. I think we're really suggesting that you really engage in an MOU.
Okay,
I'll leave it at
thank you. We are in food business. Mr. Ford is in security business. This matter that we are dealing with right now is more of a security and safety than a restaurant business.
I understand that, but you're operating in Baltimore City, and security is a major issue for all licensees.
Security is first. That's why businesses in city like my business dropped $2 million since 2015. I realize that. I work every day this city for last 36 years. Every single day, I work 7 days a week. And I'm in contact with lots of restaurant owners and businesses. And a couple of restaurants that they are in Little Italy, that actually came to me to solve the problems that they have in the same community. So if it's a matter of security, you want a signature, he would draw a contract and he signs it that he would create the security at that block for going forward. Every year we give you a new contract signed with his name, because that's why we hired him. On that checklist, everything is going to stay the same. We didn't start something 36 years ago to stop it. All of this effort that I made was to go forward in a right manner, lawful manner, with Ford Security. A signature is a signature, is not a reality. And lots of people were sworn to do the right thing.
Your signature, I asked you to commit to this so that we could hold you to it, but you're not willing to do that either, so.
Well,
have to bring
the man who owns the property and has a manager to run it and has a security, he is not there personally to sign this thing.
I didn't ask anybody to sign anything. I asked you to commit to these things on the record, and you
Yes,
said no.
we are committed to take care of all of those items that you have checklist. We are going to go forward doing it.
And you're willing to commit to those so that if you don't do it, we can violate you.
Yes.
If you prove it's a violation.
Of course,
The
of
pigeons,
course.
I'm not going through that.
I don't know where you got the pigeons things.
I
You
didn't
handed
say
me a
that.
list of things, and this is the things that I've asked him to commit to. I don't see anything on there about pigeons.
Sir, in working with,
Rodents and birds.
yeah,
Where is that?
Keep the dumpsters so they won't leave food for rodents and birds. And some of
Do they have employees who do that?
the employees do what?
Who feed animals?
excuse Excuse me, that was something I added this week.
We're
with-
taking that out, Ms. Blair.
Yeah, that's fine, but the dumpster needs to be closed. It's something I added because they do feed the pigeons in the alley.
I'm
But
taking
that's
that out. They
ceased.
won't even
That's
die.
stopped. Oh, the pigeons died?
No, the
Oh,
guy who was
person that
feeding
was
them died.
Probably from
It was
feeding
one
the
of the
pigeons.
dishwashers.
Probably, right, right. Well, we had a problem in the community with all these pigeons, so.
Just, they had a book for the police officers, and they weren't coming in anymore. They can come
Who
by and
aren't the
see.
police for not?
They would see the fort, and they would wave, and they'd go on. So they didn't come before, they would come in, other than if some of the people came in to eat, but.
Your Honor, I gave a summation for Tony this week that takes that book out of there, but does the nightly log that the security does anyway. Police officers won't come if you're getting half killed anymore. Certainly, they're not stopping by at a restaurant just to sign a book. Nonetheless, if the security keeps a log, which they do every night, that can be available to any police officer that stops by once every 6
Sounds
months.
to me like, well, these documents aren't exactly accurate. You've got an agreement.
If you're going to speak, please speak into the microphone.
I understand you've got the log, and that's fine.
Anthony Ford, owner of Ford Protective Services, 30 years, undergraduate degree, criminal justice, master's in legal studies. I've done security for several. I worked with Central District for over 15 years. I'm a problem solver. I clean up, people who have issues like this, like Mo's, and that's why I was called. I'm an expert in terms of providing security. My guys have done an excellent job. The commanders and stuff have stopped by and shook my hand personally and said, thank you for being here. I think when you talk about being safe in the community and providing security, it goes beyond just greeting people at the door, but being friendly and assisting and helping them in every way we possibly can. So I think that my company has made a tremendous difference in providing security for the community and not just Mo's.
No, I think they've conceded that. So where's the gentleman, Mr. Asadi?
Yes.
So these are the issues that I want you to commit to. Are you going to employ a security guard on days Mo's is open from 7 until 30 minutes past closing time?
Yes.
And send daily security reports. Is that what the issue is, the sending of daily security reports?
They
Just
keep
maintain,
daily
so you want them
reports.
maintained?
Mr. Ford keeps daily reports. They were sending them to us on a weekly basis, and then that essentially stopped. They've sent a couple sporadically. They don't need to be sent on a daily basis, a weekly or bi-weekly
I
basis.
did that for 9 months. I communicated with him. Then I turned around and told him, your business, you take care of it, you communicate, do it weekly, but keep a record. During the 9 months, I never got one time somebody says, hey, something happened in your backyard.
No, so I'm just saying.
That means
you're willing
it-
to do the weekly reports?
Of course we
Okay.
do. Of
You're
course
willing
we
to
do.
continue-
He's there to do it.
And you're willing to maintain a police book?
Of course.
Okay.
If
And you're
they
willing-
come, we keep a
and you're-
book.
And you're willing to maintain cameras in working order,
Of course, that's been done.
accessible to police,
Anytime.
proof to the community of working cameras every 6 months,
Anytime for liquor board and police department, nobody else.
and working?
Police department and liquor board can access the cameras at any given time.
But you're saying you would not provide proof to the community every 6 months that they work, even the still pictures that you sent me?
Well, no, we are going to let anything, any captions of anything to liquor board by request or police department.
Well, I think we can.
We
work
are
with
going
you.
to send you a proof of everything is working,
We can verify with you.
or they can verify it.
Our
We can go
inspectors
through them.
can check. And maintain working lights around the outside of the establishment,
Yes,
and fix them when they're not working, right?
yes,
So you're willing to commit to those things?
already are.
Okay.
And will.
If you don't keep that up, you'll agree that we can create a violation, bring you in, and we can all talk about it then.
Yes.
I like the word alleged violation.
Well, all of our violations have to be proven, and you know that. Okay. All right, so if we've got that agreement on the record, anything further from anybody? Commissioners ready to rule?
Yeah, we got to, we got a motion to dismiss, and I'm not sure if Councilman Cohen's, I know you don't want to, if they have anything to add, no, okay? Okay, thank you.
All right. With respect to the motion, I'm going to deny it, Mr. Konecki, on the basis of what I stated earlier, that I think that while what we imposed last year created a specific obligation on them, and that wasn't, the allegation was that it wasn't met in good faith. I'm going to deny the motion, but I'm going to vote to renew the license based on the promises that Mr. Asadi has made here, that will become part of the record and hopefully resolve once and for all this dispute between the parties, and we can move forward. Commissioners?
I too would vote to renew the license based upon the commitments made by the licensee, to their credit, that will be attached to the license, as is the case with all of our MOUs or conditions or restrictions placed on the license, and hope that there will be continued dialogue between the parties and, to the degree possible, engage the liquor board staff to really make this productive as much as possible.
Yes, based on the testimony and materials provided today, I also vote to deny the motion for dismissal, and I also vote to renew the license. And I just ask everyone to try to be a good neighbor, and let's work together, because it does seem there's a trust factor here. We'll only know what happens in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And question, Commissioner Reisinger, did you want to attach the restrictions that he agreed to? You didn't state that on the record.
Okay.
As a condition of the renewal.
I vote regards to renew the license on the conditions that the chair had stipulated.
Okay, Ms. Russell?
Medical exhibits for the record. Licensee Exhibit 1, motion to dismiss. Opposition, Exhibit Number 1, list of MOU terms.
Okay, good luck, folks. Thank you.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you very much for your time. Mr. Oppenheimer, Mr. Chris we appreciate it. Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board.
We need to have a break,
It's
Mr.
the Commissioner's choice.
Pardon? I mean, do we have everybody here for the next one?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, well, we can go forward then.
All right. Yeah. No, I for a second. Okay. Then, moving on to the next item on the docket. Sangria LLC, trading as Sangria. Premises are located at 930 North Charles Street. Holders of a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. This is a protest of renewal petition under the Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-1801 and 4406. A petition to protest the renewal, which is signed by 10 or more residents, commercial tenants who are not holders or an applicant for any license issued under the Alcoholic Beverages Article, real estate owners in the immediate vicinity of the licensed premises, which has been filed against the establishment. As per the Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-1805, the board shall only consider issues with respect to a specific complaint as to the operation of the licensed premises. Council is representing the licensee, and here I have 6 individuals who wish to testify against. Mr. Fogelman, are you representing the community?
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
Okay. So, yeah, I have Jack Dana, Dennis Richter, Paula Fernandez, Michael Donnenberg, I'm sorry if I read it wrong, Kurt Decker, and Steve Fogelman.
Good morning, Your Honor. Christopher Rizakos and Caroline Hecker with Rosenberg Martin Greenberg.
Last name one more time.
Rizakos, Rizakos. With me today is the licensee, Juliana McGuire, and owner-operator, Ricardo Jones, to her right. As a preliminary matter, Your Honor, there is a time-sensitive witness. I believe the council president is here and has something, I believe he has something to say. If you'll allow it, I know obviously
Let me get everybody identified. Okay, Mr. Fogelman?
Yes, thank you. On behalf of Mount Vernon Belvedere Association of Protestants.
Okay, and all those who wish to testify, please raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, and someone's here from the council president's office, you said?
The council president.
Oh, I can't see you. Oh, I didn't see you, sir. Okay, please come on up.
And I think he probably has to be sworn, Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
Can I ask you to step up to the mic and raise your right hand, please?
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you state your full name for the record?
It's Nick Mosby.
Good morning, Mr. Mosby. So you are here for the protesters or the licensee?
For the licensee.
Okay. Do you want to just let us, we'll hear from you so that you can be on your way.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the board for providing me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the licensee. I have known the establishment for quite some time, since its inception. Once an event that's near and dear to my heart, one of the last public events of Congressman Elijah Cummings occurred in the establishment. What I've seen is something that has been ultimately a symbolic representation of, I guess, Baltimore's history of being extremely segregated. I would say that this establishment has a cultural cater to young African Americans from around the city that venture into Mount Vernon, many of which do not live in that community. And I think it may be the chasm between a cultural difference that points to sangria with the larger issues of the city of Baltimore. Right now, there's no surprise that there are crime issues in our city, not just in Mount Vernon, but throughout the entire city. And from all of the complaints that I've been able to review and receive, it appears that whenever anything happens in proximity, whether they're operating or not, it's kind of pointed to and blamed on the establishment. From a city operational perspective, we have listened to the community and sent the social task force out in surprise to the establishment, where they were required to go through full-scale A to Z inspections of the establishment. The last one I recall, I think the only thing that the city identified was a grease trap, and the owner and licensee can kind of go over the specifics, where we shut this business down for, I believe, 4 to 5 working days. That's when I got involved, was able to work with the fire department, was to ensure that we went back out to do the inspection so they could turn back up. This is not just from me as city council president, or at the time me as state delegate, or at the time me as city councilman, but I would also argue that probably many folks on the social task force, when they're given the requirement to go and inspect sangria, kind of see it as one of the same, be it the fire department or any other the other entities inside of the city. I know this community is speaking with good faith and speaking to the best of the community from their perspective, but then it's also important that there's a balanced approach. And I think when we look at the level of enforcement, the level of time, the level of attention that the city has placed on this one particular establishment in the heart of Mount Vernon, I think it is probably going to be viewed as disproportional. I was not able to come prepared with any data points to show the amount of times that the fire department or the police department or the social task force has come to this establishment over the past couple of years. But again, I think when you look at it in proximity, it probably disproportionately outpaces all the other establishments around there. And so that is why I am here. If there is information that I do not have, that has not been presented to me, definitely willing to take a step back and support. Obviously, as the representative of the city, I have to represent everyone, not just residents, but also business owners, because they're all constituents of the city in Baltimore, and they're all really important, particularly to a place like Mount Vernon. So that's why I wanted to come and provide I guess my purview, my experience, my direct knowledge of the inner workings as well as of the ownership.
Okay, thank you. Just for a moment, Mr. Fogelman, did you have any questions for the council president?
No questions, thank you.
All right, okay. Thank you, Mr. Mosby.
Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much.
your input.
I have a question.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Mosby?
Yeah.
Your former colleague has a question for you.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Hey, Mr.
And the only question, being the president of the city council, has your office ever received any complaints or dialogue with the community regards to the complaints?
Not directly from the community, but definitely from the council member in the community who's copied me on and definitely working with the liquor board.
Okay.
The secretary of liquor.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fogelman?
As a preliminary matter.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
I think it's important to note before we begin testimony that there was a meeting held between Sangria and the Mount Vernon Belvedere Association on Tuesday. I believe it was the 25th. Mr. Fogelman was there. I was there. Mr. Jones was there. Jack Dana was there. Dennis Richter was there. I have a list with me here.
Anyway, so go ahead, tell us what happened.
So we did, we pointed out some of the issues that were outlined in the petition, including the noise complaints, the complaints regarding the trash, and the complaints surrounding the crime that are outlined in the petition. And I am happy to report that we did reach an agreement with respect to the trash. I mean, it is an informal agreement. There was no modification made to the MOU. Nothing was in writing. But there will.
A question about the MOU?
I apologize.
I asked you a question about the MOU. Is it outdated? Does it need to be revisited?
I think it does. I think it does with very specific parts of the MOU. And when I was before Your Honor in December for a violation hearing, you encouraged our client to reach out to the community to discuss what was contained in the MOU and to sort of help relight that fire of communication, because what this really does boil down to is a complete breakdown of communication. And I think that at that December hearing, where we were headed was coming up with a definition for what a special sporting event is. Because if you remember, the bar must close at 1 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays.
Right, and there was dispute about whether there was a sporting event.
Correct. I don't want to belabor the point.
I recall it.
Yes. So I think that it could be beneficial for us to revisit some of the very specific terms of the MOU. It is, when I first got involved with the case and I read through it, there are some aspects of the MOU that are vague.
Well, I had a specific question I wanted to ask you, because this parking lot, do you have an agreement with the owner of the parking lot that your patrons can park there?
I do not. No.
So how is it that they park there?
I don't.
It's a private lot, right?
It's
a public lot?
It's
not our lot. It's actually a public lot
there. There's a meter there, and you go. I've actually parked there before, and you can park there and pay the meter.
This is where the violence has occurred, right?
Not directly in the law. That's what it's alleged in the petition.
So we don't know. I mean, I don't think I have any police reports about it. So what happened?
Basically, between that lot.
Can you come to the microphone?
Sure. Ricardo Jones, partner in Sangria. So basically, there's a parking lot I guess that's Morton Street is the that alleyway, and that lot is used by, pretty much anyone that comes to Mount Vernon for whatever purpose.
Right off of Eager Street. Right off of Eager Street.
Yeah. Yep. So there's that one. There's the one on Morton, and then there's another one a little bit further south. But those lots are used by everyone just coming to the neighborhood or the area, just used for parking or whatever. So.
Okay. You're functioning in a city where there is violence. We've got to figure out some way to provide security for patrons and others, even if it is a public lot. So can that be part of your discussion with these folks?
It was, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because, I think I'll just cut to the chase and discuss what was agreed to. With respect to the trash, my client agreed to, it was requested that, the MVBA requested that we lock the dumpsters. They said that they've had success with other restaurants in the community and that locking dumpsters worked. We agreed to it. We will lock our dumpsters. There was, and you can hear, you'll hear testimony about it, but there was a violation, a trash violation against Sangria. Back in December, I think the hearing was held in January 2023, that was ultimately abated because my client, Mr. Jones, who was at that hearing, proved that the trash that was illegally dumped belonged to CVS. Mr. Dana has graciously agreed to schedule a meeting with, he has a good relationship with CVS and Eddie's, which is where some of that trash comes from. So with respect to the trash, we agreed to sit down with the owners of CVS and Eddie's, along with my clients, and discuss coming to an agreement on who can use the dumpster. With respect to the crime, we also agreed to, there are no security cameras on the back of the building. My client did agree to install security cameras in the back of the building to increase security. There are obviously there's security personnel in the front of Sangria on Charles Street on Fridays and Saturdays, but in the rear of the building there are no cameras, so we agreed to do that. With respect to the noise complaints, that's where things sort of get hairy with the special sporting events, people leaving Sangria after 1 o'clock, and if they're permitted to based on whether or not there's a special sporting event on, what a special sporting event is. We agreed to revisit that and come to an agreement. We didn't actually come up with the definition of it at Tuesday's meeting, but we did agree to work collectively.
You might want to make a list that both sides agree to. You know, the World Cup only comes up every 4 years.
March Madness once a year.
Right, but I think you could probably come up with a reasonable list of things. And since the Orioles are going to be in the World Series this year, I think you need to think about that.
That's right.
But yes, okay, so I'm encouraged to hear this. So what's left to dispute?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Commissioners. Unfortunately, I mean, it appears that progress could be made on those two issues, and that would be wonderful. The problem here, at least from the opinion of the association, is that there's been kind of a breach of trust on what they thought about with the MOU, and the fact that a number of the violent incidents that have occurred after 1 o'clock, have occurred not at 12:30, but in the 1 to 2 a.m. hour. So, I mean,
what do you believe from that? That they're open too late, or?
Yeah, they're open late. That within the spirit and the letter of the MOU, that they've been open late, calling anything on television a special sporting event. And I mean, that's the testimony you'll hear. Like I say, there's a letter of an MOU and a spirit of an MOU.
Closing time without a sporting event?
1 o'clock. And as you mentioned, I know these folks knew what they were talking about when they thought special sporting event. They thought Game 7 World Series, NBA Finals, Orioles clinching the AL East out in Anaheim, or God knows what else, but Ravens overtime Monday Night Football. But there's so many sports going on all over the world right now that you can watch on TV. That anything, you can find a sporting event at 4 a.m. if you want to.
That's why I think you need to reach some kind of a list.
Well, I would agree with that. It's just that they spent a lot of time as volunteers negotiating in good faith. And then when they were here for the violation hearing in December, the protestants who were here heard the general manager basically state he didn't even know there was an MOU. And he certainly didn't know anything about the special sporting event. And so that was a little bit of a slap in the face to them. And they, for the most part, think that the MOU is fine, but it just needs to be enforced. And it hasn't been enforced. So
it sounds like it needs to be revisited a little bit and refined a bit to bring these new provisions in. I mean, can you and Mr. Rosacco work this out, draft something?
I got to talk to my clients about that. I know they do want to speak to you about the violence, more so than the trash.
I understand.
And
I'm
more
willing
so
to hear about the violence, but I can't cure the violence. I want to try to protect the people. And if that means lights, or if that means having someone out there,
I agree. They do want to be heard from as far as their licensing requirements as well, specifically whether or not there's a fully functional kitchen going on there at all times.
Have they alleged that? I mean,
I
was handed so many documents about a minute ago. I don't know what's in them, but go ahead.
Okay. I mean, they're going to testify based on personal knowledge that they can't get a bite to eat in there, and that the food is brought in when there is food, and other pieces of evidence. So I considered back in my day a fully functional kitchen as a precondition of being granted a Class B liquor license. Rule 4.20B clearly states the minimum things you need to have to be a fully functional kitchen, including having food on premises for your menu items, having menus, having forks and knives. I mean, some basic stuff. I'm not alleging there's no forks and knives there. But that food is, at best, a pastime there, and it's often catered in. And so they want to testify to that, because when they negotiated in good faith 6 years ago, they thought they were getting a restaurant, and they were excited about that. And that really hasn't developed. It doesn't seem it's ever really developed into a restaurant.
Have our inspectors been on the premises in recent times?
Chief, who was that? Agent Clark?
Morning, Chief. Have you been sworn?
I have not.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I don't
any
have
people been out there?
They have. I know Inspector Washington's been out there recently. I think within probably 2 weeks. Within the last 2 weeks. I don't have any of the reports in front of me right now.
Did you hear anything about the kitchen?
He didn't report anything back to me about a kitchen.
You're going to have to check it out. Okay. Okay. Who wants to proceed? Because we got two more.
I'll be happy to call a witness. They've been instructed
Okay.
to press for time.
Okay.
Thank you. Jack Dana?
Good morning, everyone. To the chair and members of the Baltimore City Board of Liquor Commission, neighbors and friends, more importantly, to those residents and community members who have dedicated hundreds of hours over 6 years stewarding an MOU between Sangria and MVBA that is really the genesis of this hearing today. And really thanks to the Liquor Board staff who has spent time over this last year helping us understand the copious arcane about Liquor Board provisions. Very important. So formally, my name is Jack Dana. I am a local resident and service president of the Mount Vernon Belvedere Neighborhood Association. I am here today to express our concerns, to express our community's opposition to the renewal of the Class B liquor license for Sangria. The opposition is grounded in the threat to the residents in the community who contribute to the vibrancy of our community. We have no more confidence that Sangria has any intentions of adhering to the MOU. I'll be brief. I frame our opposition around 3 main points. First, the lack of respect for an MOU that this board and chair helped create to help us build a stronger relationship with the business and community that contributes to the revitalization of the city's Main Street, Charles Street, and our Main Street in Mount Vernon. Second point, broken promises. I was not here in 2016 when the MOU was negotiated, but what I've heard from residents who have been committed to the community for at least 10 years during that time, that the business owner and had agreed that this would be a restaurant. We all know that a restaurant has a menu on the website. You go in, you sit down, you're offered a menu, you have something to eat. From my experience with residents and feedback, that's not the case. And as we speak today, when you go to the menu, when you go to the website, there's no menu, and that's been the case for several months. And then thirdly, my last point, which we take very seriously, and I would like to correct, not being a good neighbor. We were here December 15th, where the board here cited them and fined them for being in violation of 3.12 general welfare, in addition to additional MOU requirements. Commissioner Greenfield here requested the business owner to meet with us. That has not happened in a meaningful, formal, spirited way that addresses all of the components of the MOU. I reached out to Mr. Ricardo personally by phone and sent 2 subsequent emails that he agreed to meet with us on his terms. Never confirmed. So we're now 9 months out, 3 months since this hearing in December. 36 hours ago, we had a meeting with Ricardo and his counsel. To me, that does not substantiate a meaningful engagement on the MOU, which has been problematic since serving as president since 2022. That, to us, is not a meaningful indication that there's a way and a path forward. And those are my reasons, and those are the reasons why the community members are here today to speak spiritedly about some of the violations, and more importantly, why we ask the license be revoked. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Mr. Dana, you were present at the December violation hearing, correct?
Correct.
And do you recall, here, I apologize. we can
Yes,
share
correct, I was here.
And do you recall the board recommending that the MVBA and Sangria communicate?
I do.
And do you recall receiving an email from my client, Mr. Jones, just 7 days after that hearing regarding the trash?
I I think it was more like 2 weeks, and trash is just one small subset of the MOU. It was not an invitation to engage in a spirited way about all of the components of the MOU.
Sure. Can you take a look at this exhibit for me, please?
Yep.
Second page of that. Can you tell the board what the date on that is?
December 22nd.
I can prop for the court, that was exactly a week after the hearing. And this is an email that it copies you and Eric Costello, correct?
Correct.
Okay. In that email, my client requested that you reach out to CVS. Well, I can just,
I think he said he reached out to CVS.
he says in the email, as we are trying to be proactive, given these issues addressed, he asked that you reach out to CVS, given your relationship, to inform them of the illegal dumping, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Was that ever done?
I did reach out to CVS, and I spoke to them yesterday evening.
Okay, okay. Was that done for the first time yesterday evening, or was that done?
I went in after this email, and I left a message for Brandon, who is the manager.
Okay, so you left a message.
Yep.
Let's see here. Drawing your attention back to this exhibit, there's another email dated January 17th on this exhibit 4A. Your Honor, I apologize for not indicating which exhibit I was on. And it's an email from my client to Randall Twanetta regarding a citation.
Yes, she said.
Are you aware that they were cited for a trash violation in January?
I was not.
Okay. So it's safe to say that you're aware that the citation safe to say you're aware that the citation was not aware that the citation was dismissed?
Correct.
Okay. And Mr. Danner, obviously you were present at that meeting on Zoom that we had on Tuesday, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall my client agreeing to lock the dumpsters moving forward?
I actually don't recall that, but that could have been the case.
Okay. Do you recall agreeing to be helpful enough to schedule a meeting with the owners of CVS and Eddie's? My client?
I don't recall that, no. We talked about the trash issue, we talked about the unsightliness, and that in fact, perhaps there could be occasion when there were illegal dumping. That's what I recall discussing on that Zoom meeting. I did not agree to coordinate a meeting with Brandon and/or the business owner of Eddie's.
Would you be willing to agree to that, to help coordinate that?
Sure, always. I'm the president, it's my job, which is why I responded to the trash email December 22nd. We serve all constituents.
And in your petition, you identified March 23rd, 2023, 311 noise complaint. Do you recall identifying that in the petition?
I do, yes. There have been several 311, not every one of them, but yes, there have been several complaints.
And the complaint, if I'm not mistaken, is that it was a noise complaint because there was noise happening after 1 a.m. Is that correct?
Correct.
Are you aware of any sporting events that occurred on March 23rd, 2023?
I'm not.
Would it surprise you to learn that there was a college basketball tournament all weekend and that March 23rd was actually the Sweet 16 for March Madness?
Yeah, I'm not a sports guy, I'm not a basketball guy, but I do remember the email, and I did say that I hope Gonzala won, but I had no idea that there was a sporting event in there. It was not in the establishment at the time.
And just for the record, Your Honor, I printed the March 2023 March Madness schedule that identifies the Sweet 16 occurring on that date. I can introduce it, Mr. Fogel. I don't know if you want.
I take fanatic notice thereof.
I don't know, my team wasn't in it, so I'm not. But, all right, it'll be received. We don't need to go in great detail about that. That's an issue that's got to get resolved, obviously. I mean, what I'm hearing is that the trash is an issue, the violence is an issue, the noise is an issue. We've got to get these things resolved.
I agree, Your Honor. I'll speed it up. But Mr. Danner, you mentioned the 2 shootings in the petition that occurred in, I think it was October and December 2022, the late 2022.
Right. I believe the first shooting was the end of September.
You certainly don't fault Sangria for being responsible for the victims that were shot, do you?
I fault them in a way of being a business owner who, if had security properly, I believe in the back, the rear, where the shooting happened, perhaps maybe there wouldn't have been a shooting. That's where I stand. And I do know that both victims were coming out of Sangria.
Do you know if anyone from Sangria, any of its employees, were ever charged in connection with those shootings?
To my knowledge, no. I believe the investigation is still ongoing.
Okay. Just briefly, I'd like to show you a communication that I previously marked as Exhibit 2. I submitted it on Tuesday to the board. Mr. Dana. What this is a communication dated, shit here. It's April 24th, 2023. There it is. And again, I'm looking at Exhibit 2. Do you recall receiving this correspondence from my client in April 2020? Just, what is this? This is...
I believe this is the email from Ricardo regarding the general meeting.
Okay. And the email towards the back of Exhibit 2, I think it's on the last page. This is an email from my client that he sent to you expressing concerns about the Mount Vernon Belvedere Association meeting that occurred in March, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, what I would like to make clear, the email and the substance in the email was saying that sangria was on the agenda. There are folks here who will testify and can confirm sangria was not on the agenda. We were having a meeting with the Maryland Department of Transportation about conduit work and updates.
But you recall my client stating that he was feeling targeted by the community in this email, correct?
Correct. And I reply that he's not being targeted.
Okay. And you recall my client forwarding an article, a Baltimore Sun article to you about the over-enforcement of black-owned restaurants in the city, correct?
Correct. And I replied, and I said the charges against Sangria have been substantiated. And I also replied stating that they were not being targeted and all businesses are welcome in the neighborhood.
Did you read the entire article?
I actually did. I wrote a response to the editor of the Baltimore Sun.
And I'm safe to say then that you're aware that the article references Mount Vernon restaurants specifically, and that there was a Mount Vernon restaurant listed in there, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's it for the record. That's Exhibit 3 that's been previously marked. On that same email, if you flip to page 4, which is the next page, this is still Exhibit 2.
So this page for the one
Correct.
before?
I'm looking
Okay.
at your email now dated March 23rd, 7:19 p.m.
Uh-huh.
You state that at the hearing, I'm looking at the third paragraph down, you're writing to Ricardo stating that at the hearing, the board encouraged Sangria to reach out to the MVBA and resolve several other outstanding issues, but that neither my client or any representative of Sangria had reached out to the MVBA to engage, correct?
That's correct, and I just shared that in my testimony. There's been no meaningful correspondence between us about the substantive aspects of the MOU.
Mr. Dana, is it safe to say that just 5 minutes ago that you admitted to receiving correspondence just 7 days after the hearing?
Well, those are correspondence, but it wasn't a meeting with the community and the board on the MOU.
You also state in the email, unlike the establishments listed in the Baltimore Sun article you provided, the complaints concerning Sangria have all been substantiated. Is that?
Can you please repeat that for me?
Sure. I'm looking right here. Unlike the establishments listed in the Baltimore Sun article you provided, the complaints concerning Sangria have all been substantiated.
Yes, and that is premised off of the December 15th, 2022 hearing.
So other than that December 2022 hearing that the board is made aware of, what are the other complaints that have been substantiated?
In my testimony, which I didn't get to, the noise, the video I was going to play for the board, which is a violation of the MOU, respect for the residents, Section 1. There was a fight coming out of the back door, no security. So that, to us, is proof and evidence that could be substantiated. That's up to the board here.
And just last question for you, Mr. Jenner. In your testimony to the board a little earlier, you mentioned 2 emails that you had sent to my client reaching out about the MOU. Do you have those emails with you today?
I do not.
Okay. No other questions.
All right, thank you. Did you have someone else?
Yes, thank you. Dennis
Thank you.
Richter.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Dennis Richter. I am a 10-year resident of Mount Vernon. I have my offices on Morton Street, a block away from from Sangria, and I have several properties that are right in the rear of Sangria on Morden Street, the Eddies of Mount Vernon site, and several other properties. I've also been volunteering on the MBBA board, specifically on the development committee for the last 10 years, and have advocated strongly for small businesses throughout Mount Vernon. One of the great things about Mount Vernon is that you have this great mix of both residential homeowners, apartment dwellers, institutions, and that makes the neighborhood very strong. And we have had a population increase of about 18% from 2010 to 2020, and a great mix in terms of diversity within Mount Vernon. I have been, at the time when Sangria came to the community, I've been heavily advocating for them at the time in 2016. And they came to the community and shared the idea about taking over the Red Maple was the previous tenant or operator. And we were all very excited. I was especially, because it's small business, to advocate for them as part of being part of the MBBA development committee. And I feel somewhat let down and very disappointed in terms of how this has turned out. We also, I should say, in terms of Council President Nick Mosby, the event that he held at Sangria, I attended that meeting too, as well as other people within the community. So it's not just an event that took place that was from outside folks coming in, but also community members attended that event. And even at that time, I have to say, it seemed apparent to me that this was not a restaurant, but in terms of more of a club type of environment where it's alcohol, but rather less on food. I really actually didn't see much of food at all at that time. So I just want to say that in terms of the perception of that we are anti-business or targeting, we actually have been advocating in order for these businesses. And I've been very strongly advocating for Sangria. And so I specifically feel somewhat disappointed and let down because I was the one that was really speaking up for them. At the time when they communicated their ideas and concept for Sangria, they shared a sample menu with the community. So it was clearly set up and thought of that this is a restaurant and a great addition to Mount Vernon. And I also should say, one of the things in terms of when you have an operator that really does not uphold the agreements that they have made with the community, it really is detrimental to all the other business owners. Because the next restaurant owner coming with an idea, they're going to be perceived as, oh, what are they going to do? Because there's the natural tendency because of negative events happening. And this is very detrimental for Mount Vernon. And so that's why I today really wanted to share that perspective from back in 2016 to now. And I don't have that trust in that they really will uphold any MOU going forward, even with any changes. Unfortunately, I don't feel comfortable in terms of that they are going to really stand by what they agreed to. So thank you.
You do understand that if they enter an MOU and they violate it and they come before us, we can shut them down.
I'm sorry?
You understand that if they agree to an MOU and they violate the MOU, we have the authority to close them down?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very, very, very briefly. Mr. Richter, thank you for coming today. The event that you attended at Sangria with Nick Mosby, there was food at that event, correct?
I remember broccoli, carrots, kind of, but it was mostly drinks. But there was really no menu or something where you could order.
Okay. And you stated that correct me if I'm wrong, but in your testimony that there was more than one violation other than the December 2022 hearing. Do you have any specific dates and times? Do you have any specific dates and times that you can note for the record that Sangria violated the MOU?
In terms of that I observed personally?
Yes.
I would say in terms of from the trash, I walk my dog routine along Morton Street, so that is an ongoing issue that dumpsters are almost in the drive. I mean, not even on the side. They're sitting in the middle of the road, so it's very hard to other businesses to be able to move in and out. I've seen late at night in terms of the type of activity that takes place in the parking lot. I've gotten emails, phone calls from my tenants being concerned and asking about if there's footage. I don't have camera footage in the rear. Whether I have that because of the shootings and casings, and then tape, where the employees come to Eddie's being concerned about the activities that took place the night before. So there are multiple things in terms of, on the personal level, homeless people coming to me, being concerned about it. They are panhandling along Eager Street, saying what is going on there. So those are the kind of things that I personally observed and people that interacted with me.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have something further? We got to keep moving.
Your Honor, I do. I've asked them to cut it for time. Cross-examination obviously adds time to the process. I withheld on redirect in order to preserve.
I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Your name, please.
Paula Jane Fernandez.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Commissioners of Baltimore City Liquor License Board, neighbors, friends, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today on a matter of great significance to our community. My name is Paula Fernandez. I'm a 7-year resident and business owner in Mount Vernon. My property backs onto the parking lot behind Sangria. I am here to protest the renewal of the liquor license for Sangria, an establishment that has not only disrupted the peace in our community, but has also posed a serious threat to the safety and well-being of its residents. Before I delve into the details, I want to be clear that I'm not a fearful person, nor am I easily intimidated. In fact, I've spent my career working in conflict and post-conflict zones around the world. In the last year, I've been working in Iraq, and a few weeks ago, I returned from the Central African Republic, a country in the depths of a bloody civil war. Despite these experiences, I have never been as concerned for my safety and the safety of the people around me as I am today. I will present 3 recent specific examples of the noise disruption and insecurity endured by our community due to Sangria's operation. These are by no means isolated incidents. Example 1, on Saturday, September 18th, 2022, my husband and I were awoken around 1 a.m. by this.
I'm just going to object to the playing of the video. It hasn't been authenticated yet. For all I know, it's completely irrelevant. I'm watching it myself, and it shows absolutely nothing. There's no individual in it. I don't know where this was taken. I don't know what time it was taken. Just want to state the objection on the record.
And, Your Honor, obviously she could set the table for that pretty quickly.
That's all right. Let's just move on.
A shooting had occurred in the back alley near Sangria at 1:04 a.m. According to the police report, the victim was a regular at the establishment. The officer reported arriving to people running and screaming from the club, as he put it. The incident was reported to be gang-related. A car was shot in the passenger side, and the possible victim, who had been wounded in the back, could not be interviewed because he was in critical condition. Shell casings were found at the scene. That information was taken from the police report itself. The promotional event taking place at Sangria that night was advertised with a closing time of 2 a.m. I've included the promotional materials in the packet. That was beyond regulated hours. This incident demonstrates a violation by Sangria management of multiple aspects of the MOU. 1A, responsibilities of the licensee, general conditions, hours of operation, allowing or engaging in promoter or other nightclub-style events. 1B, respect for the residential neighborhood, disturbing residents who live nearby, music or noise audible beyond surrounding sidewalks. 1C, illegal activity, unruly behavior within and around the establishment, failure to monitor the area, failure to notify the community within 72 hours. 1D, communication with MVBA and coordination. Example 2, Saturday, December 3rd, 2022, 12 days before Sangria's hearing, and they knew about the hearing for a liquor license violation, a man was shot multiple times in the alley behind the establishment at around 1:30 a.m.
Same objection, I understand.
According to Baltimore Police, the Baltimore Police report, the victim was a patron of Sangria. My security camera captured the gunshots, and the cries from the victim were clearly audible. Shell casings and a gun were found at the scene. Promotional materials for the night's event, 90s on the patio, are provided in the supporting documentation. Again, multiple violations of the MOU. Example 3, February 9th, 2023. This is a Thursday, 2 months after the hearing for the liquor license violation. Noise, fighting continue, and They're actually, the video shows the noise behind the club, and in fact, my final video, which I will just show you.
And you provided links for all of these
Oh,
in your
yes,
petition?
yes, in the documents. My final video clearly shows people coming out of the back of the club.
Same
And so
objection.
we have a lot of video that shows issues like this coming out of the back of the club. Okay, I'll stop there. Again, so multiple violations of the MOU. Sangria's presence in our community has been a source of constant distress and disturbance for its residents. The establishment has become a hotbed of violence and unruly behavior, with frequent brawls and even weapons-related incidents. The alarming frequency of these incidents has created an atmosphere of fear and unease, impacting not only who live nearby, but those who pass through the area. In conclusion, it is my firm belief that renewal of Sangria's liquor license would be a grave mistake. I urge you to stand with me and our neighbours to protect the community from the dangers that this establishment possesses. Let's work together to ensure the safety and prosperity of our beloved neighbourhood. Thank you.
Question?
The 3 videos that you played, who took the videos?
They're on my security camera.
So all 3 videos that
Belong
were
to
taken
me, yeah.
were taken, to me, they look like they were taken from different angles. Do you own multiple homes in
Yes.
Mount Vernon?
No, one home with multiple video cameras.
All 3 videos were taken from the same angle,
No, 3 videos are on the back of the property. They're at different angles.
and were the cameras working properly at the
Yes.
time the videos were taken? Did you submit these videos to the police?
Yes.
And
The
what-
police requested the videos. They came to the house to review them.
And do you know if anyone from Sangria was ultimately held responsible for these incidents?
I don't have any information about the continuation of the court case or the investigation.
Okay. Have you ever seen security out the front of Sangria before?
No.
Okay. You are aware, obviously, you've been here, about the MOU between Sangria and the Mount Vernon Belvedere Association. Have you read it?
Yes, I have.
Familiar with it?
Yeah, very.
Okay, so you're aware that operating hours may be extended for special sporting events, correct?
I'm aware that's in the MOU.
These dates and times that you've presented where there's noise emanating from this parking lot beyond 1 a.m., are you able to definitively tell the board that there was not a special sporting event on at that time?
Well, I wasn't in the building, so no, I can't say that.
I'm sorry, you weren't in the building?
I wasn't in Sangria at the time, so I can't say what
No,
they
no,
had
no.
on their TV.
Okay. TV generally, were there any sporting events on at the time?
I don't really watch TV, so I wouldn't know.
Did you ever call, have you ever made any 311 calls for Sangria?
Yes.
Have inspectors gone to show up before?
Yes.
Have you spoken to those inspectors?
No.
Are you aware of any other violations besides the December 2022 violation for Sangria that were substantiated?
I thought there were some health department violations, but
Okay.
not for now.
Have you ever heard of Piazza 27?
Yeah, on the corner.
Are you aware that they close at 3 a.m.?
No.
Do you know where it is?
Yeah, it's right just around the corner from where my building is.
Okay, so how far away is it from?
It's in the total opposite direction
Is it?
to Sangria.
I have a map, a Google Images map that I've pulled up here.
Yeah.
So there's the parking lot, right here.
Yeah, Piazza's right by my front door.
So it's about
actually.
a half a block from the parking lot.
Maybe, yeah.
There's Sangria, there's the parking lot.
Sure.
And are you aware that Piazza 27, they have a BYOB policy and you can bring alcohol up until 3 a.m. there?
I'm not aware of that, but I frequently am in the front of the building, and I don't hear any noise from Piazza 27. I've never made a complaint about them. I don't know any of my neighbors who have either.
You've never made any complaints about Piazza 27?
Well, I've never heard any noise coming from there.
The complaints that you've made have only been for Sangria?
Well, that's because the people are spilling fighting out of the back door of Sangria. So,
Okay.
yeah, sure.
Okay. I'd just like to submit this too. It's a Google Images map and it's the website for Piazza 27.
Okay. Okay, folks, we got to move along. We've got 2 more hearings.
I'll submit. No other questions.
Anything else?
Your Honor, I've got 2 very brief witnesses who've come down here, who've worked on this MOU, and they need to be heard.
I mean, I understand, but
I also
so
have a witness, Your Honor.
Are they redundant? I mean, I've heard.
No,
that
they
we've
won't be
got.
at
Okay.
Hi, thank you for indulging me as I provide some additional testimony you have not heard yet.
And your name is, sir?
My name is Michael Donnenberg.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. So my wife and I moved to Mount Vernon in the summer of 2016. Delighted to return because we love the neighborhood for its architecture, for its diversity and inclusiveness, and for its vibrant activity. That's part of what we love. Our first board meeting I remember vividly because that's the meeting at which the attorneys for Sangria presented their plan. And I must say we were very intrigued by a new tapas restaurant coming to our neighborhood. We love to frequent all of the nearby restaurants. It's a thing we love about Mount Vernon. And in fact, when they were questioned, they said that they occasionally might have a DJ or live entertainment, but their focus was a restaurant. And that was the basis for the MOU. And my testimony here is to say that over these years, all of those promises in the essentially all promises in the MOU have been repeatedly broken. So we talk about food all the time. We love going to restaurants. None of my friends have ever mentioned going to Sangria for a meal. It's unheard of. We know about all the other restaurants, no mention. But that's like hearsay. I have to say that after the first shooting, my wife and I looked at their Facebook page, we looked at their website, and we looked into health department reports, and that's what I want to focus on. Their Facebook page advertises all these types of nightclub activities. They don't advertise food. They don't advertise sporting activities. They just advertise nightclub activities. It is a nightclub. Their website has a beautiful picture of food. It says Baltimore's newest edition, so I think it's 7 years out of date, and it says, coming soon, our chef. If you click at the bottom where it says menu, it's a broken link. There is no menu. And then I want to call your attention to a health department report. I can provide 5 copies of it. This report from the health department is from February 11th, 2023. So it's only 3 months old. And they have multiple citations, but I'm just going to read one. It says, equipment not maintained. This is the kitchen equipment not maintained so that it functions properly. Assistant manager stated that the kitchen equipment is not being used and therefore is not being maintained. This is not a restaurant. It has a restaurant license. It is not a restaurant. It's a nightclub. My wife and I decided to see for ourselves. So on April 21st, at 7:25 p.m., at a great time to go to a restaurant, we came to the front door of Sangria. We were told they're not open yet. Come back in a half hour. We returned 45 minutes later. We went inside. There are no tables. There is no service. There's a bar. We went to the bar. We ordered a drink. Then we said, can we see the menu? There was no menu. Then we asked, can't we get any food? She said, wait a minute, I'll talk to the manager. She went to the manager and said, our food lady is going to get here around 9. If you'd like to wait, we can tell you what we have when she gets here. It is not a restaurant. It's a nightclub. It's a violent nightclub. It's a loud nightclub. It's a nightclub that violates everything in the MOU. It is not a restaurant. I urge you to revoke their license because they are not in any way compliant with a restaurant that serves alcohol. Thank you.
Briefly, and I appreciate your testimony. I've previously marked for the board Exhibit 5A through 5D. These are all advertisements listed by Sangria. Mr. Donnenberg, is this an advertisement for Sangria for Saturday that Can you take a look at this before? Can you take a look at this? Have you seen this advertisement before?
I don't recall that advertisement. It's dated 2021.
Yeah, April 10th, 2021.
Correct.
What's the time listed for the Saturday event?
6 p.m.
To
1 a.m.
Yep. And have you noticed that the price is listed as free?
Yeah.
Are you aware that the MOU clearly states that Sangria cannot charge a cover fee for anyone going in?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And the description of the event, can you read it out loud to the board for me, please?
It says RSVP only event. That doesn't sound like an open restaurant. Enjoy amazing food and drink specials with friends while listening to great vibes in a safe atmosphere in our outdoor patio.
Here's the next advertisement I'd like you to see. It's an advertisement for the same event.
That seems like a waste of their time.
Okay, appreciate it. It's listed at Saturday. The event goes till 1 a.m. It says RSVP only, amazing food and drink specials. Do you see that there?
Yeah, same
you
words.
Ever seen this
same
advertisement
words.
before?
No.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
The next page here, it's a My Area Network. It says doors open 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Do you see that there?
I do.
It's controversial because the previous advertisement showed that it closes at 1 a.m., but this one closes at 2 a.m., correct?
It's the same event?
It's a different event. But it says that the full kitchen menu is available until 1 a.m. Do you see that?
I read it. What's
Okay.
the date on that? What year is it? How long ago was there a full kitchen menu?
The date on this event, well, actually, you're not allowed to ask me questions. I apologize. I'll answer them.
I wonder, in response, I wonder how long ago this occurred.
Yeah, that's a good question. Are you aware that crime generally is an issue with Baltimore City?
Painfully.
Painfully. And how long have you been a resident of Mount Vernon?
7 years.
Okay. Have you ever called 311 to complain about sangria?
I have not.
You have not.
My wife has, but
On how many
personally haven't.
occasions has your wife called to complain about sangria?
I don't know the exact answer.
Do you know any specific dates or times that she's called to complain about sangria?
I do not.
Okay. Have you ever had any conversations with any employees or the owner or licensee at Sangria?
Employees at the bar on Friday night.
What Friday night?
April 21st, 2023.
Okay. And did you express any concerns to the employees?
No.
Why is that?
Why would I challenge them about their employers violating a liquor license?
So isn't it fair then for you to go to the owner, operator, or licensee?
We got to move on.
directly?
This is
Thank
this
you.
is not helpful.
That's all.
I have one final witness, Kurt Decker.
Saving the best for last.
Indeed, of course.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity. I had other things I want to say, but it's just to reiterate. This is not our first rodeo. Unfortunately, Mount Vernon has experienced this before. Back in the early teens, a group came and said they were going to open a restaurant in the old Brass Elephant. It was called the Museum. Promptly deteriorated into a nightclub and never functioned as a restaurant. And this board revoked that license. So there's precedent here for when an entity comes into town, makes these promises, abides by that, and then completely deteriorates into, as you've heard often, a nightclub. They're violating their license. This is a fragile but beautiful gem of Baltimore. We need the help of a variety of city agencies. We need the police department, Department of Housing, CHAP, and the liquor board to protect this neighborhood. I've lived there for 48 years, and I have a business on Morton Alley that is a multifamily dwelling license, and I also have an open air garage license. My tenants constantly complain to me about the noise emanating from Sangria. It's impacting negatively my business, and in terms of the city council president talking about need for small businesses, it is, and as Mr. Richter said, it's having a negative impact on all the businesses in the city. We can't get tenants to come in. We can't get new restaurants. We have learned now to not trust any of the representations from any association, and especially their lawyers, that they're really going to live up. I don't think this MOU, we believe in the MOU process. We think it's worked very well around the city for a variety of agencies. It has not worked here. It will not work here. The fact that they came to us 32 hours before this hearing, despite you asking them to come to us, is an indication that really aren't serious about negotiating in good faith with the community. Thank you.
Okay. Question? All right. We've got to move. So you have something?
No other witnesses?
No, that's it. Thank you.
I'd like to call Daniel Parsons. You have not been sworn in yet, so can you?
Raise your right hand, please, sir.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do swear.
Mr. Parsons?
Hello, I'm Daniel Parsons. I am a Mount Vernon resident
Also, I've been in the area for about 2 years now, and I frequent Sangria. That's why I'm here. I eat there every Friday. Sangria is like one of the only places I can go to on the weekend, watch a game, maybe Thursday. They're not even open that many days. Thursday, Friday, see some ladies, eat some wings, have a good time, go home. I've been at the establishment plenty of times and seen so many different agencies just come through, like almost like it's a raid. And honestly, being in that position, you know, it doesn't make you feel good, because I've been in a number of other bars and restaurants all over Baltimore City, and I've not experienced the same thing I experienced there. I mean, it looks like it's the drug bust of a century when sometimes that's Sangria. And personally, I don't feel like they're represented well here. You know, there are a bunch of people saying that what Sangria does not represent for the neighborhood, but for me, I don't see a lot of people like me in Sangria, well, in Mount Vernon neighborhood. You know, it's sprinkles of it. There's not a lot of establishments where minorities go to, you know. So being a new resident to Mount Vernon, I really appreciate Sangria. I eat food there. I watch basketball games. The NBA playoffs is on till 1:30 a.m. right now, every night. You know, 40 days, 40 nights, you know. So that's all I wanted to say. I think Sangria does a good job, and I feel like it's needed in the area. Could they prevent violence? I think violence is everywhere. However, I think I've been to Sangria, security in the front, the security at the back doors. I see security everywhere. So I think that culturally there might be a disconnect, and ultimately I wish that we could just figure it out, because there's not many places that I could actually go to and feel inclusive, you know? So that's just my piece.
Do you have questions for the?
Very briefly, sir, you had wings. You eat wings there.
I eat food there.
You
yes.
eat food there. Okay.
Yes.
You're not aware that if you go to sangriabaltimore.com, you get a 404 error when you click on their menu.
I don't look at the menu. When I go to a restaurant, I just go and I ask, what do you guys have? What's the menu?
Thank you.
I'm not a big Yelp guy. I just go there, you know.
All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you very much.
Anything
Mr. Parsons.
further from anybody?
I was going to call Mr. Ricardo Jones, but if you're
Go ahead.
Honor,
We got to move, though, so let's do it quick.
very, very, very briefly. Mr. Jones, can you state your name for the record?
Ricardo Jones.
Let me just trim some of this fat, Your Honor. I'm just going to cut to the chase. Ricardo, you heard me and Mr. Dana, when I was cross-examining Mr. Dana earlier, discussing an email that you sent to him stating that you feel targeted.
Yes.
Can you explain to the board why?
This really all started when that first shooting occurred that happened in the vicinity. Every single correspondence that's been sent out from the MVBA describing this always has said behind Sangria. During the time, there was another operating business, which was the Manor, that's open until 2 a.m. with no restrictions. They're not called into question. They're not asked whether or not anything happened with them. No other business is questioned. When I did speak with Mr. Dana and I expressed this to him, it was, well, had to be, they were coming from Sangria, like, this is your issue. Crime is an issue across this city. We do our best to ensure that our customers, patrons are safe. They feel, we make sure people get to their cars. We try to, hey, when you leave, please turn your volume down. Those parking lots are open 24/7, 365. And all of the people that patronize those parking lots, there's one target, and that's on this establishment. And it's sad. And like, for Mr. Dana to come up here and say that everybody is inclusive and everybody's everything else, it's a bunch of BS. And I mean, I don't really have anything else to say, because this is actually like, it's alarming that all of these people can get riled up from that one statement. You know, in a police report, it says behind the 900 block. Every other report of any other incident, any other type of crime or violence that happens in anywhere, it's always the whatever block. It's the street addresses. And that just labeling it behind Sangria, behind their parking lots. If you look at the Baltimore Sun, whatever Mr. Dana has put in, it all says behind Sangria, then their parking lot. And that right there is why I feel like we're targeted.
Do you have questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Sir, you appeared before this board in December of 2022 and effectively told them that you didn't know about the MOU.
That wasn't me.
That wasn't you?
No.
All right.
No.
So your testimony would be that you've known about this MOU since
Yeah.
its inception in
Yes.
2017?
Yes. Mhm.
All right. You just heard your witness talk about 40 nights, 40 days and 40 nights of NBA playoffs.
Yes, sir.
So did you determine that those were all special sporting events? all
If there's
40
an
days?
NBA, the NBA playoffs are on and there's a game after 1 a.m., yes, that's considered a sporting
Right, and you
event.
know, obviously, the Western Conference regularly concludes their games after 1
I
a.m.
understand.
Right, did you ever think to contact the community to tell them that for the next 6 weeks, we're gonna stay open till 2?
I haven't, but I'm more than willing to do that.
All right, would you agree with me that special might not mean, might not mean every Saturday of the week?
No, I mean, there's some days that we're out of there before that.
Sure, and sir, you, what percentage of food sales do you have for your Class B license?
I'd say 50-50 to a certain
So you're-
extent. But also what we do sometimes on late night is that we'll have a, because of COVID, we've now sometimes we'll bring in literally a consolidated menu where it's, hey, you can just come order this and get it to go, or not to go, but just, sit it there. So this is your options and this is it.
All right, so is it your testimony that you've had a fully functioning kitchen at all times since this license?
Yes, the only time we had an issue with a stuffing or with an oven, and we got that rectified, which was from the February thing that you were talking about.
All right, and why would it be that there would be no menu on display when Mr. Donnenberg
Well,
came to visit last Friday?
we took the menu down online because of COVID, and also I don't know which employee or what was going on that day. More than likely, whoever was in the kitchen staff was running late. I mean, we're having a lot of staffing issues, as of most bars and restaurants.
Isn't it true that you've sort of shifted your business model from more of a restaurant to a straight
No,
bar and nightclub?
no, we've shifted since COVID. Like, it's not about us being a nightclub. We've always said we were going to have music or have live music and everything like that. It's really small bites, come down, eat, sit down, like the gentleman said, and mingle.
But you did highlight the tapas at the inception
Yes.
of this license and
Correct.
and a full menu.
Correct.
All right. And were you employed when there was illegal conduct violation on May of 2021?
What was that?
Were you?
I'm one of the,
on May
yes, yes, yes.
2021? Okay, and there was an illegal conduct
What's-
violation?
I don't know what that is.
This is timeframe wise, this is back from 2022, 2023 license year. This is a violation that occurred in 2021.
Right, I know, but Mr. Rizakos also knows that the board is, that the community is empowered to go back 4 years on these protester renewals.
Okay, anything further
No, thank you.
for you?
One quick question for Chief Inspector John Fismowis.
Yeah. Chief, come on up.
I think he's already been sworn in.
Yes.
Okay. One question for you. Do you believe that there's a disproportionate amount of 311 calls made for Sangria than other restaurants and bars in Baltimore City?
I think that Sangria, I don't have the data in front of me. I think Sangria is probably in the top 5 most 311 calls in Baltimore City, if that helps answer your question.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Quickly, gentlemen, want to be heard?
Mr. Fogelman.
I'll be super brief. I've been dealing with liquor law for 16 years now, and I've probably visited with 4 dozen, maybe 5 dozen community associations, in person, virtually, in every which way. And I can tell you, on one hand, that perhaps the most business-friendly of these associations is MVBA. You will know, and you will take notice from your own job here, that they support establishments almost 10 to 1. You get letters supporting way more than you get this kind of action. And so that's because there's something going on here. It's out of the ordinary. The members of this association, they like to go out to eat. They like to go out to drink. They like to be the customers. They live in Mount Vernon. It is a cultural jewel. And they are hard pressed to defend it. And further, as I mentioned sort of in my opening, the MOU process is sacrosanct with these communities. When it appears to be ignored, or it appears to be parsed to be exploited to the advantage of the licensee, it creates enormous amount of ill will with the community who spent that time to make what they believe was a document and a plan for the success for a business to operate within the framework of the community's safety and enjoyment. And
So tell me this, why is the testimony that you presented today so dramatically at odds with the record before the liquor board? So our record on this establishment shows one violation during the last year that we find, and 11 311 calls, only one of which was substantiated, and nothing else.
Your Honor,
We've never had a complaint about the kitchen or the food to alcohol ratio or anything like that until this morning. So why?
well, as far as the food to alcohol ratio, for no pun intended, they've had bigger fish to fry, and that was the public safety concern of the complaints here. That having been said, we believe that is a continuing problem with respect to the license. And the community suspects that there was a business plan change. And if you're going to change a business plan from a real restaurant to a real nightclub, you go get a BD7 license. You don't operate under a Class B license. So no, that is something that is secondary. That is something that's personally disappointing vis-a-vis the presentation made to the community 6 years ago. What's frightened them, what's keeping them up at night is what they consider to be an unsafe space in a residential neighborhood.
Commissioners have questions at this point?
You know, I take your point. If there was a change of business plan, they should have gone through the process to change their license. But does that substantiate them losing entirely their license right now? I mean, I think, you know, that's one sort of stream of consciousness point. But the bigger point to me is, I think that's something that the licensee needs to address, and address very soon in terms of what they are, because it sounds like the testimony from the community, Mr. Chairman, was pretty compelling in terms of what is being offered in terms of food. I do think the issue of crime is significant here, and I don't know to the extent to which the licensee contributes, which is really the question to the public safety dilemma and what they're doing to mitigate it. What engagement has the community had? We understand the engagement they've had from the licensee. There's obviously some dispute about whether that was enough, but what engagement has the community had with the police department in terms of protecting the area? Because some of this is outside the bounds, the legal bounds, right, of sangria. So where are we with that discussion?
I'm certain that that they have communication with the Central District. I'd have to bring up a witness to give you more information on that. But indeed, they have been in constant contact with the BPD.
Did you have any questions?
No, Aaron.
Did you want to?
I don't believe the burden's been met. I'll leave it at that.
Well, so this is a tough one in a way, because, as I said, the record before us was not bad. The testimony is terrible. There's glaring issues that relate to any number of things. One, from whether they're operating properly under their license, the safety and legality of the people in the community. And believe me, I understand that there's crime in Baltimore City, but if you're going to operate, as I've said before, a business in Baltimore City, and your patrons are going to cause problems or be subject to problems, you've got a responsibility to address it. And I don't know that even putting lights out back is going to go anywhere near addressing the amount of noise, shooting of guns, and other things that I heard on those tapes, whether they were properly in evidence or not. Those are pretty frightening things. I'm not saying they're responsible for it.
Sure.
But it's coming, at the times they claim that they're open and closing and in proximity to their premises. So that can't happen in a neighborhood like this. It's not a safe and well-lit environment. The trash and other things and issues, and this thing about being open every night past 1 because there's a sporting event on cable TV, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, they've got to have some reasonable parameters on that. I'm troubled by frankly, the perceived or actual racial ramifications of this that were pointed out by the council president and echoed in the testimony. I hope that's not the case here, but it certainly might be. So I'm not sure, but it can't go on like this. This is not going well at all.
We're willing to work with the community. That's why we made the effort on Tuesday to meet with them. We requested the meeting in an effort to limit the issues before, so exactly what's happening now wouldn't happen. We didn't want to be here for an hour and a half today.
I understand, but it was a little late, I must say. I know how lawyers operate, last-minute stuff, but it should have happened much sooner, and it should have happened on a much more comprehensive basis. These are very, very troubling problems. They're not going to be resolved in a half-an-hour meeting.
And I'll just say that, obviously there's evidence that was submitted evidencing the communications that were made by my client, and I don't want to run through it again, but there were communications made by my client
I understand.
just a week after. There were communications in January.
But there's no trust here.
That is exactly what this is. When I came before
problem.
Your Honor in December, I said that this is a complete breakdown of communication, and that was only 4.5 months ago, or whatever it's been, and that hasn't changed. There's so much anger between the community and Sangria that I think can be resolved with, I don't know how many meetings, but I think that it all stems from maybe coming up with sort of working around the MOU, making it less vague, making an open conversation. I'm at a loss for what can be done.
It may require our board to get more involved. I mean,
Sure,
our staff. I don't know whether it's operating as an actual B license anymore. It might have been the pandemic, might have been a change in their business philosophy or whatever. We have to look at that. And perhaps our staff needs to get involved to try to assuage some of the acrimony as well. But at this point, I'm not prepared to just say, go right ahead and keep doing what you're doing, because it's a mess. So I think you need to resolve these very big issues and resolve them rather quickly.
And Your Honor, I would suggest, I think that this was mentioned in the December hearing, but that my client is amenable to a mediation. He can go to a mediation. The licensee can go to a mediation. I think that would be beneficial if we get Mr. Alkheimer from the office to schedule a mediation and we can sit down and work through these issues. In a 20-minute meeting on Tuesday, we resolved some of the issues. The pattern in the petition was trash, noise, crime. Trash, noise, crime. Trash and the noise and the crime, that was discussed in 20 minutes. If we had a mediation with Mr. Alkheimer that was mandated, my client would be there, the MVBA would be there, and we'd be able to reach an agreement.
And I want, if you do that, we need a mechanism by which violations of the agreement are promptly brought back to the board. Because, I respect what Mr. Jones and what he's trying to do here, but this is not a good operation right now, and it's got to get cleaned up. I don't know. I want to hear from my colleagues. I don't know what they're thinking.
No, I agree. I think the question we're wrestling with is whether this meets the burden of not renewing the license. And I have hope that the parties can actually come together and address these issues. The question is whether we today renew and bring the parties back, or not renew and bring the parties back. I don't want to, frankly, I don't want to hamper the business and their ability to make revenue. But at the same time, as the chairman suggested, and as the testimony, as we heard the testimony, which I thought was very compelling, there are significant problems here. And they may not, they are Sangria's and they're also the community's problems. And so we need to strike a balance here. I don't know what, Commissioner?
Apologize, and I will just say that the only violation in 2022 was that December violation. All of the incidents, the reason I said that the burden hasn't been met is because you heard testimony of General, I walk by every day and I see trash out there. The standard is specific dates and times.
Ms. Fernandez gave us some specific times and dates.
Ms. Fernandez did give us, and I objected to the video evidence. I still do not believe
Even
that
if
it's.
you take her video out, she testified to it, so
Sure,
we have that.
sure.
Did you have something you want to add?
No, I just want to echo real quick that I think parties need to sit down and try to work this out.
Well, I'm going to suggest that we defer on our ruling and give you 10 days to see where you can end up, because today I'm not prepared to renew the license, but I hope you can resolve it. So if the commissioners agree with me, I would defer the ruling for a period of 10 days.
Agree.
Yeah, I would agree to defer the ruling for 10 days, and the parties should, again, in good faith, really need to sit down, and you also have to work on your trust issues.
A lot, yes. If you're going to continue to exist in that community, you got a long way to go. So
How would Your Honor like us to inform you of that, what happened at that?
I'm going to ask Mr. Ockheimer to be involved with you,
Sure.
and he'll keep us informed.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So this matter has been deferred for 10 days.
Yes.
Which would be, let's see.
Do we need to call this?
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Can we go on the record to call the exhibits, please?
Yes, I'm sorry, Ms. Russell.
And
To call the exhibits. Licensee Exhibit 1, email chain between establishment and community. 2, Baltimore Sun article dated 3/9/22. 3, email dated 4/2023. 4, Environmental Control Board finding dated 3/15/23. 5, violation payment dated 2/23/23. 6, event flyers. 7, Google image map. 8, Piazza 17 listing. Opposition exhibits: 1, 31 letters of opposition from community. 2, letter of opposition from Mount Vernon Belvedere Association. 3, letter of opposition from Midtown Community Benefits Association. 4, letter of opposition from Johns Hopkins University in Medicine. And 5, Health Department report dated 2/11/23.
so 10 days would be May the 7th, which is a Sunday. Did you want 10 business?
11 days.
Okay. This, is the board in agreement?
Yes,
11?
11
All right.
days.
So 11, the matter has been deferred, decision has been deferred by the board for 11 days, which is May 8th, 2023. Shall I call the next case, or?
Yes, but with apologies, we're going to take a bathroom break for about 2 minutes, okay?
The board stands in a brief recess.
Trial clerk at 12:09.
If I could go for it. Are we ready to start?
Lithuanian Hall group? Okay.
As soon as we are on the record.
As soon as you're ready, I can recall.
Let's go.
Good afternoon. The Board of Liquor License Commissioners hearings of April 27th, 2023 are now back on the record. And are we ready to call the next case, Mr. Chair?
Please.
Calling then item number 3 on today's docket. Lithuanian Hall Association Incorporated, trading as Lithuanian Hall Association. Premises are located at 851 to 53 Holland Street. The holders of a Class C beer, wine, and liquor license, and this is a protest of renewal petition under the provisions of Alcoholic Beverages Article 12, 1801, and 4406, which petition to protest the renewal, which is signed by 10 or more residents, commercial tenants who are not holders or applicants for any license issued under the Alcoholic Beverages Article, real estate owners in the immediate vicinity of licensed premises, has been filed against this establishment. As per the Alcoholic Beverages Article 12, 1805, the board shall only consider issues with respect to a specific complaint as to the operation of licensed premises.
Counsel.
Good morning, Your Honors. My name is Pete Melcavage. It's Melcavage, and I represent Lithuanian Hall
Good afternoon.
Association. I have with me multiple members of the Lithuanian Hall Board of Directors. Just briefly, could I just have them introduce themselves and say who
Please.
they are and what they do?
Hi, I'm Rytis Grabowskis. I am the president of the Lithuanian Hall Association, and I am a program manager for the U.S. Department of Labor.
Hi, Liepa Boberienė. I'm a member of the hall, and
I'm a manager of program evaluation of Baltimore City Public Schools. I'm Lenore, I'm manager of program home.
Lucas Balchunas, I'm retired. I was former CFO of the Community Development Finance Corporation, and I was a longtime resident of the 800 block of Howard Street.
Good afternoon, I'm Todd Sayauskas, 17-year resident of Baltimore. I work with Morgan Stanley, Director of Investments downtown.
Afternoon, his father, Victor Sayauskas, I used to work for City of Rockville Code Enforcement and Zoning Administration.
Good afternoon, I'm Luska. I'm a resident of Baltimore City for 20 years. I'm a resident agent for 18 years now, consulting them on the related matter.
Good afternoon and welcome all of you.
Good morning, Your Honor. And all the Lithuanian Hall is not, we're a nonprofit organization. And we're very willing to work with the community. We're very surprised by this because we met with them on September the 21st. They presented issues, we sat down with them, and we addressed the issues that they raised. And that's why I have filed a motion to dismiss. I don't believe they've met a prima facie case for renewal in that they need to have 10 people, 10 signers who are within the immediate vicinity. Now, immediate vicinity is a tricky term because what does it mean? The best example that I could find of what immediate vicinity means comes from Rule 2.08 of the Liquor Board. And in Rule 2.08, it says that for a transfer application, you need to have people within 200 feet of the facility. Well, the row houses on the 800 block of Holland Street are 30 feet wide, roughly. I lived at 825. I remember how long my row house was. It was my grandmother's house and had been there since 1957 that she had been that owner. But the point is that in order, if you go from 200 feet from Lithuanian Hall and each house is 30 feet, well, you're only talking about 10 houses. That means from 849, which is the next door.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but say, first of all, I saw your motion dismissed. We have. I consider that I'm going to reserve until we take the testimony in the case on that. On the issue of immediate vicinity, the courts have not ruled what it means. We have to impose some reasonable interpretation of it. I don't think 200 feet is probably going to be our reasonable interpretation of that. But I'll let you go to that.
Well, I'll move on then, because I think this is going to be quick. We're willing to sit down and talk and negotiate a new MOU. There is an MOU from 2009.
Yeah, there was an old one from 2009, and it didn't get registered with the board until more recently. Is that correct?
Right, because I don't think it was attached to the license. I wasn't around in 2009. I don't know if any of the people here were actively involved with the hall the way we are now. So I don't know that there's anyone. The only person I know who was actively involved was Bill Green, but I don't know. I don't know.
Before we move on, can I have everyone raise their right hands in case you're going to speak? I want to swear you in.
You swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Okay, and if you are asked to speak, please come up and speak into the microphone because we're being televised or whatever. So let me see if I can cut to the chase a little bit. It's my understanding, you all have been around since 1934 or something.
Oh, it's 914 actually,
Okay.
but the liquor license.
Long before I came to the liquor board. But my understanding is part of what your operation is that you rent out space to people for events. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you enter into agreements with those people about what their obligations are as to when they open, close, and what they have to do?
Yes, Your Honor. The prior MOU says we have to close events by 11:30. We actually close events by 11 so that they're cleared out by 11:30. That way we're trying to be good neighbors. We're trying to do the things that'll keep the community happy.
Let me just ask you this question. So is there someone who supervises these events?
Rita Skrabowskis.
So this gentleman's there when they occur?
He is, Your Honor. That's why he's here, and he's my primary witness.
Okay. And the complaints go primarily to, well, let me hear. So who's going to be the chief spokesperson for you, Mr. Fogelman?
I'd like to start with Bill Green. It's going to give you the bulk of the case here.
Yeah, because I don't want to have it. I know you all sat through a long. I'm trying to cut through and get to the meat of these things as quickly as I can, so you'll understand. Mr. Green, why don't you tell us what the main complaints are?
Okay. So I'm just going to read a statement real quick.
Okay, so my name is Bill Green. I've been a resident on the 800 block of Holland Street for 19 years. I'm here to protest liquor license renewal at Lithuanian Hall. I want to make it clear that the decision to protest license was not an easy decision for me. The Lithuanian Hall building is a fixture on our street and neighborhood. I personally have attended many events at the hall. I like the Lithuanian Hall, for the record. I'm also one of the original folks that helped write and broker a memorandum of understanding between the neighborhood and Lithuanian Hall that was signed in April of 2009. This MOU was created because Lithuanian Hall had a series of unruly events that culminated in an event that released 200 patrons onto a residential street.
Objection, that was 14 years ago. We're not
Residential
talking
street
about-
that resulted in a shooting and multiple Signal 13 calls for responding BPD officers. A Signal 13, if I understand it correctly, is when an officer is overwhelmed and requires immediate assistance. So why am I bringing up what some might consider ancient history? Because today, in 2023, just like 14 years ago, the management of Lithuanian Hall has chosen to put profit over neighborhood cohesiveness by again having large, loud events, not Lithuanian Hall themed events, that disrupt the neighborhood by playing loud, amplified music and releasing drunk patrons that BYOB'd in an establishment with a legal liquor license that, according to license, covers the entire building. As a community, we have met with the hall management several times over the last 2 years. The one big ask is to turn down the music and block up the windows that are impacting adjacent neighbors. It is the management of the hall, of which not one of the board members lives in the neighborhood. That is the reason I am before you today. They continue, the board of directors, to use the same page out of the playbook they used 14 years ago. We had no idea we were going to have a large, loud party, and we have no control over the DJ. That is what they say. This is sad that a group of folks who do not live in our neighborhood can come in with no notice to the community, disrupt our sleep, trash our streets, and then go home to the suburbs to count their money. Lithuanian Hall is no longer a good neighbor. I ask the board to look beyond the lack of violations and realize the community actions to protest a liquor license signals that something is very wrong with an establishment. I'm sorry it has come to this.
So you say you've met in the last 2 years?
Yes,
several
sir.
times?
Yeah.
Once.
In March 2022, we had a Zoom meeting, which I gave you.
That was your
notice.
Hollands Roundhouse Association
That's
meeting.
correct.
That wasn't meeting with you. The meeting with you is meeting with the general. You asked us to attend a meeting to bring up issues. 2 of us came, Ritas and myself.
And we also met with the manager before that, before March, and then in March. So we met with you a couple times, Pete. Not with you, you're right,
So
but with the Lithuanian
did
Hall.
the meetings come to any resolution?
Yes, we sat down and we wanted to renegotiate the the MOU back in 2012, and we sent a letter as we're required to by the MOU.
I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen
and
it.
so
You gave it to me.
proffer this as its prior exhibit that was
You received.
I believe it was exhibit number 4.
So where are you?
We sat down with them on September the 21st.
And
Is
we
that
asked-
correct?
And we've asked repeatedly, just turn.
Wait,
on-
answer the question, please. We sat down on
Wait,
September the
let's
21st.
stop. We're talking over one another, okay, so, yeah, so let's, actually, my question to both of you, and take it one at a time, is where are you right now with your disagreement?
We're willing to sit down and talk to them. That's why I think this is silly, because we're willing to come up with a new MOU. The MOU from 2009 is outdated. There are several issues in it. For example, one of the big issues is that there were no rentals in July and August. Well, the big issue there was because the windows had to be opened to the hall. The Lithuanian Hall is a concert hall. And so we've air conditioned the hall. We spent $50,000 to air condition the hall. And mind you, $50,000 to the hall is not insignificant because we operate barely skating by each month. You know, our bills are about $11,000 a month, roughly, give or take. And that means we have to generate $11,000 of income every month. It's not something, we're only open one night a week as for our club, which is Friday nights. So, rentals, as you see from Exhibit 6, I believe, that I previously submitted with my motion to dismiss, I have copies if you would like those.
We have it.
Okay, and so you see that the rental income has stayed roughly the same over the years that we've been open, and yet there's been no complaints until 2022.
Okay.
Why is that? Why weren't there complaints in 2017, 2018?
So let's just, Mr. Green, where do you think you are in the negotiation?
I think we're at, excuse me? Yeah, I mean, the big thing for the Lithuanian Hall for us is the noise that comes out, not necessarily of the front, but there's also an adjacent wall where the neighbors are right there. And there's very large 6x6 windows that go into the backyards of these folks' house. And when they turn up the music, amplified music, there's literally plexiglass is all it is. It's not even a window, it's just plexiglass. And so it's deafening in the neighborhood. And we've not really been able to get any traction with Lithuanian Hall to talk about this because they're like, it's not a problem. They recently, last night, showed me that they had put 1 inch of foam in the windows, which has no sound transmission value at all to stop anything. So, I mean, they say they're gonna do stuff. They've said before to Pavel Jankowski that they were gonna, from what I understand, that they were gonna block up the windows. That hasn't happened, and maybe there's been a language barrier there, but I don't think so. I mean, they said they were gonna do it, and it hasn't been done, or they're gonna look into it, some sound deadening, some soundproofing. So that's where we're at. We're just at the point where we can only complain once a year, and this is it.
And so the issue really is that there are these windows, and how many windows are there, Rita?
Well, 2 windows, but they're
There's 4.
3 by 6, 3 by 6, so he's correct to say there's 2 3 by 6.
There's 2 6 by 6.
And so we have put sound barriers up because the walls of Lithuanian Hall are about, what, a foot thick? They're concrete?
They're brick, probably.
No, they're concrete. The inner walls of the hall are concrete. We know that from when we air conditioned the hall. But the windows are the only problem. The problem is there's no ledge on the outside of the windows. They want us to brick those up. I don't know how we would structurally do that. And number 2, that would destroy, I don't know if you've seen the inside of Lithuanian Hall, but it's a beautiful facility. To brick up the walls where the sun comes in.
Can you hire someone to come in and give you some advice about how to handle the acoustics?
Certainly, we're very willing to. That's. I don't understand why we're here because we're willing to sit down. We sat down with them on September the 21st and have not heard from them since.
Well, all that's water under the bridge at this point. I want to get it straightened out. So, can you negotiate something? I mean, if you don't have a good idea structurally how to abate the sound, and they're not experts in that, but they know they hear it. Maybe you can get somebody who is an expert to come in and give you some advice on how you can do it.
Certainly, and I do have a problem with, there's 2 people primarily that are the issues, and both of them are business owners where their businesses are renting other houses. For example, Mr. Green, you own 5 houses on the block, correct?
Are we into cross-examination yet, Your Honor? You were asking questions of both these gentlemen, and I don't know when cross-examination began here.
Well, you asked him to testify.
I was trying to cut to the.
I get, but he keeps asking cross-examination.
Let me ask, so obviously noise level is a major issue. Are there other major issues?
There are ancillary issues that the board should hear about that some of which have been resolved, at least temporarily, and some of which have not.
Such as?
Well, such as the biggest snafu here, Your Honor, is the license itself. The license itself says use the entire building as a licensed premises. But
Objection, that's not in the petition.
Your Honor, there's a cause and effect, we'd argue, to late night loud crowds.
Late night being defined as what? Because we close at 11.
Your Honor, if I could just be heard. You asked me what I'm talking about.
Let me hear what they're going to say, and then I'll give you.
I'm talking about bring your own bottle, bring your own beer events at an establishment that's licensed for the sale of alcoholic beverages, which is like oil and water from a regulator's point of view, because you don't have any idea who overserved who or where that beer's coming from. Same with the comptroller's office. They wouldn't know whether that booze was brought by a distributor or left behind by a patron. Furthermore, the license doesn't even say live entertainment on it. So at some point, I think there has to be some licensing rehabilitation here with the appropriate zoning hearings, perhaps, in order to bring this license into the 21st, into the present, because that's all I've got. Look, you guys know that you're a board who is a creature of the legislature, and you can't do anything that the legislature doesn't perfectly give you the right to do. That said, the only mention of BYOB in the alcoholic beverages article, I want to say section 122501, and that only applies to unlicensed establishments that have to make lots of criteria. So there is no availability.
I'm not clear on
to have
why,
BYOB.
if you can sell beer, you would have BYOB.
Your Honor, number one, I object to this whole line of argument because it's not in the petition. We're not given notice to
I
be able to
understand.
prepare
I'm
for
trying
it.
to resolve the issue, so.
Certainly, but there is a facility on the bottom floor which operates as our club. That's where our Lithuanian people come, and we transact a bar there. When we rent the upper hall, we're not selling alcohol. We are renting, like we went to a wedding. It's like a church that rents for a wedding.
So people bring in the alcohol.
Yes, just for those
Is
events.
that what you're talking about?
That is
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, that they bring in the alcohol and they're consuming it on what is effectively licensed premises and is not legal. Furthermore, I'd argue that if you are bringing your own beer and purchasing it at half the price of what it would be retailing for in the downstairs bar, that you're more likely to drink more. And if you drink more, it can relate to
Your Honor, that's
the
not very-
unruly behavior as the
Anecdotal,
party
so-
lets out.
Okay.
It's not very representative of what happens.
No.
We rent to weddings, and sometimes the wedding couple says, can we have our own liquor? We say, fine. Many of the events we rent, children's talent shows, fashion shows, there's no liquor involved. I mean, I say over half, more than 90% of the rentals that we do to the community, there's no liquor. There's no liquor involved, no liquor.
Right. I
brought.
mean, the two biggest issues
So-
they had with noise, Your Honor, was one that we rented out to a marching band of kids during COVID.
There was no liquor.
They're marching band, but they're drums. And when we heard the drums, we ended that contract because we realized it was too loud. The one audio recording submitted by Pavel, Mr. I'm sorry, it's Jankowski. That's the word. Thank you, Mr. Jankowski. He submitted a video of that, and when we saw that, we ended the contract. We realized drums are too loud. It's a shame to kick out kids. We think representing the kids that aren't out squeegeeing, they're actually doing what productive members of a community would do. We see that as being a productive member of the community, not as somebody that's causing a problem and not being positive. We also rented out to a LGBTQ beauty pageant, and we saw videos that Mr. Jankowski provided us to that. That ended because the DJ would not, he would turn down the music, and then when Mr. Gabrowskis walked away, he would turn it back up, and we said, we can't have it. We ended, that was in 2021. That was the last time there's noise issues. All these calls to 311 that have occurred since the meeting we had with them in 2022 have been unresolved. There's been no violations. How can we be held for account for violations when none of them have been substantiated? There's not a single violation about the operation of this establishment pursuant to the liquor law. There's no reason for us to have any kind of sanction imposed because we haven't violated the law. All of our decibels are below the 55 level requirement. We go outside and we measure, but we're still willing to sit down with the community and talk to them. We saw this as a betrayal by the community because we met with them in September. They haven't approached us since now. When we found out about this, we were in shock.
I have a couple more witnesses if he's done.
About, on which issue?
Just 2 minutes each, Your Honor. And I'm talking 3. We have one who will absolutely stipulate or proffer that he lives in the neighborhood, give his address, and he has been subject to the loud music, including over the last year.
Okay, and just one more question from Mr. Green. Mr. Green, all the calls, the 311 and 911, have any of them caused a substantial or any violation whatsoever?
Usually, since you guys close at 11 and the inspector shows up after the fact, the inspectors don't come right away. There's a couple hour delay. So to answer your question, no.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that they weren't valid calls.
But Mr.
Just means the
Grabowskis
inspector
was
wasn't
there to meet
there.
with them, correct? When
No,
Mr.
I
Grabowskis
don't-
testifies, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
you have
All
to
right.
ask him.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
But just to clarify, you weren't there, right?
No.
Okay.
All right, and Your Honor, with respect to reserving on the motion to dismiss, should I run through with Mr. Green, who is his tenant, who is not his tenant, where the various people live proximate to?
I don't think we
the
need,
hall?
I don't think we need to do that. I'm not quite sure why we need a lot. If everyone is going to testify that the loud music is the cause, the problem, we've got to get to the issue of how to resolve the loud music.
Exactly.
Let me get Dr. Geitz, who's the president of the Collins Roundhouse Neighborhood
All right, let's go.
Association, to testify. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead. And you've already been sworn, so.
Yes.
Just tell us your name, please.
Yes, I'm Dr. Laura Dykes. I am the president of Holland's Roundhouse.
Dykes, like D-Y-K-E-S?
D-Y-K-E-S, yes.
Good afternoon.
All right, and you wrote a letter to the liquor board supporting the
Yes.
position of the neighbors here?
Yes.
Yes.
We've had the neighbors come to our meetings and complain about the loud sounds. They also came to one meeting and one Zoom meeting, and then we had a meeting where we discussed the various issues. And they were, one of the what are those called? The ropes, they put ropes up.
Velvet ropes,
Yeah, they put up velvet ropes. We talked about doing some type of sound installation, and they said that it was expensive and that they were a nonprofit, and we haven't heard anything else back. They were sending us the notifications, and then that stopped in November and started back up again in April. And then I also
Or
have.
did you reach out to your local elected officials?
Yes, I reached out to Councilman Bullock, who also gets complaints from the neighbors that are immediately adjacent. And I would like to read the letter that he sent.
Objection, it's not part of the record.
Number one, Your Honor,
I'll
it is
allow it.
addressed.
I'll allow
Okay.
it.
All right, it says, "Greetings, this communication is to support Holland's Roundhouse community residents in the protest of the liquor license renewal for Lithuania Hall. Our office has received numerous complaints over the years regarding events at this location. The repeated disregard of the memorandum of understanding is a breach of trust and is frankly disrespectful. The ongoing distribution of the peace with loud music, loitering, and disorderly conduct is not in keeping with the residential character of the neighborhood. As a council office, we share the safety concerns of neighbors living in the immediate vicinity due to belligerent and raucous patrons. Video evidence shared with us further emphasize the diminished quality of life, which could potentially discourage home ownership and rentals. Given the high volume of nuisance acts associated with this establishment and the ongoing lack of compliance, it seems appropriate to decide on this petition as presented. Thank you for your consideration, our position in this case. Sincerely, John Bullock."
Okay, do you have questions for the doctor?
I do. Did Mr. Fogelman have any questions? Okay. So, Doctor, where do you live?
I live at 107 South Poppleton.
You're 107, so you're up by Baltimore Street.
I'm down by Pratt.
Okay, but you're in between Pratt and Baltimore, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so you're more than 2 blocks away from Lithuanian Hall. You're not hearing anything coming out of Lithuanian Hall.
So it's like you go 1 block and then up 1 block.
That's 2 blocks.
Yeah,
So
no, actually, it was you know where the CEC is?
CEC.
Oh, the Community Engagement Center, Mayorsboro. I was leaving that one Friday, and I did hear very loud music coming from Lithuanian's Hall
What
direction.
time was that?
It was around 7.
7 p.m.
Yeah, 7 p.m.
And what obnoxious
Which is
acts?
2 blocks.
What obnoxious acts
Mm-hmm.
are were referenced by the councilman that you read?
I think that's answered by the people
I'm sorry,
who live
you're
right
the one
next
that
to
read it, so you're the witness to talk about it. You're the
Mhm.
you're the one who has to authenticate that. I would
Mhm.
object to that being part of the record.
I believe there are videos of people outside being
We've had-
loud and obnoxious.
They're not being loud and obnoxious in the video that was submitted to the liquor board.
Mhm.
Are you aware of the parking concerns?
Yes.
And that we encourage people to use Lyft and Uber? Are you aware of that?
How do you encourage people to use Lyft and Uber?
Well, we task them to use Lyft and Uber when they're coming to our events.
Okay.
And so when they use Lyft and Uber, where are they supposed to congregate and wait for their rides?
Inside the hall?
And when that's not how people wait for Lyft and Uber, they wait outside. I see you as being dichotomous, that you want it both ways. That you want people to not take up parking spots, but when we ask people to use Lyft and Uber and they stand outside and wait for their rides, then suddenly they're congregating in the neighborhood.
Objection, that's a real compound question, if a question at all.
It's okay. I'm not really concerned with it. Let's move on.
So, Your Honor, the bottom line is, we are willing to sit down. I don't know that we really need to go further. We're willing to sit down and renegotiate the memorandum of understanding with the one from 2009. We have complied with. The only issue they have alleged is noise. The only issue you allege is noise, correct? Ma'am, I'm asking you. You're the one that testified.
Yes.
Okay.
Because we're issuing noise.
And yet
and
there
ruckus
have been
parties.
all these calls, 13 calls in
Mhm.
the past year to 911 and 311, and not a single one of those have been substantiated. Is that correct?
I am.
And I would refer to my.
Objection, she didn't even, it's not established she made the calls or has any knowledge of
We
the
have them in our records, so I don't,
Thank you.
we don't need that.
But
And-
can I say something about sitting down with us? I mean, if you're willing to sit down with us.
We're always willing to sit down.
But are you willing to make actions? Though? Are you willing to
Absolutely.
actually do something other than sit down?
Are you aware that we put the foam insulation up in a after
But the foam.
Right. Well,
How
okay.
is that?
Give us a solution.
Why don't you get a sound engineer to come in and actually
Okay.
come up with an actual solution and then follow the recommendations to soundproof that wall?
Okay.
And I think, I'm just going to object and say that any further discussion on that
Sorry.
between these two parties should be done outside of this room.
I agree. And so you said that you got emails in October and November, and then you didn't get another one until
April 1st.
But you didn't get the one on January 13th. That was already submitted to the liquor board as evidence.
Not, let me see if I can pull that up.
I mean, we have after September 21st
Let me see
meeting.
that.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's the one. That's
This
the
is
one
November
oh,
4.
sorry, I put it back in the wrong spot.
January 13th. Where's it from? Info?
That's in.
Let's move on. So, I'm sorry, Mr. Fogelman, I've asked you several times. Other than the noise, what are the other issues? Who do you have on the other issues? What are
As
the
for
other
what
issues?
happened
Not
this
looking for them, I just want to know.
licensing year, I just know Mr. Jankowski, who does abut the premises and who took the videos that have been submitted to the evidence email address, would like to testify. Yes, it would be about noise. Yes, he is the most biggest stakeholder when it comes to noise because his property physically touches the Lithuanian Hall.
And we will proffer that.
Yeah, I mean, so, and what else is, I mean, so are you guys going to work on the noise or not?
Yeah. So let me offer this, Your Honor, and this may close it up, Mr. Green, with the community's potential, or with their assent here, is that everyone agrees that at least on this side, that the greatest problem right now are these rear windows, plexiglass, wherever you call them. They're not front windows. You know, they're back windows that abut Mr. Jankowski's property and a breezeway. It's not like a pretty view or anything. So we don't think it would be too much to ask. Even it could cost a couple $1,000s minimum to brick this up. What they are willing to consider, that is Holland's Roundhouse and the rest of the neighbors, is to indeed update the 15-year-old MOU, 14-year-old MOU, and allow events to be held, that is events that are in compliance with the MOU, to be held in July and August. And we would anticipate that that could bring in revenue for the club that could offset the cost of that mason work.
All right, so here's what I'm going to suggest, and see if my colleagues agree with me. I don't think I need to, I'll rule on, the motion to dismiss, I'm going to deny. And I will vote to renew this license, but conditionally. And that is that you must, within a 30-day period of time, sit down with these folks and renegotiate this MOU. And you have to be very specific, particularly with respect to any provisions dealing with the noise and the music and the times and all those things. And come up with a plan to abate the problem. I'm going to ask Mr. Ockheimer from our office to be involved with you in that and to report back. And if you don't get it resolved, and if there's a complaint before us about the noise next time, you may find your license suspended or in worse shape. So get this thing resolved. That's my clear message to everybody. But let me hear from my colleagues.
Yeah, so I, too, not prepared to not renew. So I am prepared to renew the license conditioned upon a 30-day period of time for the parties to renegotiate the MOU and focus on how best to abate the noise concerns that have been expressed by the community.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to say that with this license since 1934, they talked about an issue with the noise. There was 17 311 calls that were unfounded, and I'm looking at the violation. Violation from the liquor board was 2008, 2009, and I just have to I agree with my two colleagues that for you to sit down and try to work this out.
And that's what we thought we did in September.
Well, it didn't work, so you got to go back and do it again, okay? And you're agreeing to a renewal with conditions, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is that okay, gentlemen?
Mr. Ekman, now to set up a time?
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Thank you all
Thank you.
for your participation.
That,
Good luck.
that concludes this matter before the board. Oh, sorry. Call the exhibits.
Call exhibits for the record.
Please.
Licensee Exhibit number 1, motion to dismiss. Number 2, letter of support from community.
That concludes this matter before the board. Are the board commissioners prepared to move to the final?
Yes.
Item number 4 on today's docket, Gurjas LLC, trading as Fayette Liquor Plus. Premises is located at 1434 East Fayette Street. Holders of a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license. This is a protest of renewal under the provisions of the Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-1801 and 4406. Wherein a petition to purchase the renewal, which is signed by 10 or more residents, commercial tenants who are not holders or applicants for any license issued under the Alcoholic Beverages Article, real estate owners in the immediate vicinity of the licensed premises has been filed against the established. As per Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-1805, the board shall consider only issues with respect to a specific complaint as to the operation of licensed premises.
Good afternoon.
Abraham Hurd on behalf of the licensee, 1434 East Fayette Street. I believe there are some members of the community.
So
I believe a police major is here as well as the council.
those who are here wish to testify, please stand up, and we're going to swear you in.
And I'll be proffering the witnesses on my side. And I think we've lost
I
a
hope
couple
so.
in the time. Absolutely.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay. So it'd be who has brought the petition? And please state your name for the record, ma'am.
My name is Magdalena Fitzsimmons.
Good
I am
afternoon.
the board president for the Washington Hill Community Association.
Okay, let's hear from you.
Okay. To the Board of Liquor License Commissioners, residents of the Washington Hill Community Association are here to protest the renewal of the liquor license for Fayette Liquor Plus, located at 1434 East Fayette Street, Baltimore, Maryland. It was 2013 when the liquor license for Fayette Liquor Plus was renewed after 1 year of operation, in spite of the fact that members of the surrounding community protested that renewal in person by presenting a petition signed by 330 residents of Douglas Homes. And you can find the record of this on YouTube, which is where I found it, and I watched the entire presentation at that time.
You mean these hearings are on YouTube?
Yes?
Forever.
Yes, this hearing, that particular hearing is on YouTube.
Good Lord.
Yeah, since then, there has been a steady increase in crime, loitering, and other nuisance behaviors in the area directly surrounding the establishment and spilling into the general neighborhood that includes nearby areas of Washington Hill. The reasons given in 2013 for opposition to the owner's liquor license renewal are the reasons we believe are still valid today. These include the fact that the general area around the store is already saturated with other liquor establishments and bars, including Broadway Liquors, Joy's Liquors, Pratt Liquors. Drug and alcohol rehabilitation centers, including Powell Recovery, Helping Up Mission, St. Vincent de Paul, Johns Hopkins Broadway Center for Addiction. And the proximity of the store to schools in the area, City Springs Elementary, Commodore John Rogers School, Wolf Street Academy, Dunbar High School, Johns Hopkins Child Care and Early Learning Center. A 2018 study conducted by researchers at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Health, which I cite in this letter, which you can have, I cite that study, found that alcohol outlets in Baltimore that sell alcohol for off-premise consumption, similar to Fayette Liquor Plus, have a stronger association with incidences of violent crimes, including homicides, aggravated assaults, sexual assaults, and robbery. Generally, every 10% increase in alcohol outlet access is associated with a 4.2 increase in violent crime in the surrounding area. This is not the only study that references this. There are many studies done by Hopkins, as well as you are probably aware of Transform Baltimore as well. The study also found that some outlets have a stronger association with assaults or homicides, the difference being how effectively the store owners can manage their customers. It is apparent to the residents located near this liquor store that customer management is definitely lacking. Clearly, there are several vulnerable populations in Washington Hill that do not benefit from the existence of yet another liquor store whose parking lot has now become a magnet for crime and drug dealing, as witnessed by neighbors in our community who have reported this activity to Washington Hill, 311, and to the police. This is not a safe situation for the school-aged children who walk in and out of the store, and this was witnessed by neighbors. It was not witnessed by me. I'll add that. Wait a minute. I'm not done. I'm not done. This is not a safe situation. As well as for senior citizens, some with chronic disabilities who live close by in the Pleasant View Senior Living Center located at Asquith and Fayette Streets. What is needed here is a store that serves the community by providing fresh groceries and food, not another source of alcohol in an area already saturated with liquor outlets. Therefore, the Washington Hill Community Association strongly urges the Board of Liquor License Commissioners to deny the renewal of the liquor license currently held by Fayette Liquor Plus.
Hey, do you have questions for?
I have questions. I'd like to object. The fact that there are protests referenced that are a decade old, when there was a different operator, a different
Commission
owner.
is aware of what our limitation is.
And I do have questions. Ma'am, the study that you referenced from Hopkins, where are the violent crimes that are occurring as a result of the alcohol sales occurring?
I'm going to let the major speak to that. Major Saunders.
Are you aware of where the violent crimes are occurring as a result of the
Major
alcohol?
Saunders is going to speak to that.
Are you aware that the violent crimes are occurring in
I am
people's
aware
homes?
of it. I am definitely aware of it, yes. Mhm.
All right.
Do you have any specific instances under which you're protesting here today as a result of your petition?
Major Saunders will speak to that.
You submitted the petition, correct?
I submitted the petition on behalf of my community association. Neighbors came to me, and as president of the board, stating that the liquor store was a nuisance and that the activities that occurred around in front of the liquor store, which has a rather large parking lot in front of it, were impacting their quality of life. And I'm referring specifically to neighbors that live in the Bond Street area, Dallas Street area. There's a pathway that comes down, and I have another witness with me today from the board that has witnessed these things herself, and she will speak to it.
Ma'am, I apologize. Maybe my question was unclear. Are there specific instances on your petition that you are protesting here today?
They do not occur on the petition. However, Major Saunders will speak to specific instances that have occurred at the establishment and in the surrounding area directly in front of the establishment.
You mentioned the Bond Street location for some of the neighbors. How far is that away from the location?
Ms. Victor will speak to that. She's a neighbor. She's neighborhood. Ms. Victor, where are you?
Wait a minute. No, you're not calling any witnesses.
Okay, sorry.
Are you done with her?
I am.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Let's have the next witness.
Excuse me.
Good afternoon, ma'am. What is your name, please? Have they all?
My name is Rosalind Victor. I live at 1520, I live in Baltimore Street, and that's, I could say, technically a block and a half away from the establishment of Liquor Plus.
What did you want to tell us, Ms. Victor?
Okay, I just wrote something very simple. And this is from my personal point of view. One, this community does not need a liquor store, a rehab, a facility, or a BD establishment. We don't need no more of those. We're oversaturated. Two, the corner of the Liquor Plus is a big transfer spot for kids going to school. In my mind's eye, I can see 4 schools. They come as far as living classrooms, open doors, City Springs from the south, Dunbar, and Heritage High School. And they congregate right there because it's a big bus transfer spot. And it's too much activity going on those corners at any given time. At that liquor store, I too use that bus stop, so I'm not just speaking from, hearsay. 3, I live on Baltimore Street, but my back door is onto Dallas Street, which has a park area. A lot of times, the people may not consume their liquor and other paraphernalia on the Liquor Plus lot. They filter down into the communities. Many a day I have stood out there cleaning up the trash in the beer cans and all, and I have asked young people and the parents, do not use Dallas Street to take your kids to school because people sit there and drink, consume their liquor. I say, do not do it. And 4th, which may not be that important to some people, but to us that live in the community, the trash that's left behind. It's like it grows up out the ground. And so I know the people at the Liquor Plus say, how can you say it come from our store? Which circle me back to my first thing. We have too many liquor stores in the community. If every day I go out there to clean up, there's cans and bottles from the leftover liquor. So basically, those are my concerns because, like I said, I'm at a point that I can look at my back door and see the activity or my front door to see it at City Springs, which is a football soccer field that's, I think, associated with the school. And just one little point. Sometimes I look out there and I must call 911 for the person that has OD'd and chased it with alcohol. Sometimes they get them and they save them, and sometimes they don't. But that's my...
Thank you, Ms. Victor. Do you have questions for her?
No,
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Good afternoon. Major Saunders from the Southeast District.
I'm sorry, Major, what's your last name?
Major Saunders.
Saunders, nice to meet you.
So we've recently sat down with this property in reference to beginning a possible padlock of the location. And then I was faced with the opposition from the community of the liquor license. So I had, and this was presented when we spoke last time, we had a petition signed by 20 residents and 4 businesses in that particular area in opposition to 2 businesses at the location, and an additional letter issued to me from Lighthouse Properties in opposition to this location. So we did sit down with this location, and there was a list of things we asked for as a result of some of the crimes that did occur on and near that property. I'll go back to November 7th of 2022. We had a 13-year-old juvenile victim murdered on the corner of Caroline and Fayette, which is right on the corner of that property.
I would just note my objection that this is not a specific complaint that was a part of the petition.
I understand.
No ability to defend ourselves from this.
Correct. June 2nd of 2022, my officers witnessed through closed caption TV hand-to-hand transactions of narcotics occurring within the store. On 1/17 of 23, we actually conducted a controlled purchase from inside of the location for narcotics being sold inside the location. We've responded to armed person calls as early as March of 2023, and there was an assault that occurred on the property March 28th of 2023. The last several months, a lot of these activities have gone down. I have physically had a patrol car stationed at that location 24/7, which in then terms takes away additional resources from the communities around those properties. The car is not just for, I will state that, not just for the Liquors Plus establishment, but the gas station next door and the market across the street, which all three had initial sit-down meetings on. Some of the agreements we did come up with the store's attorney when we had our meeting 2 weeks ago was the not operating on Sundays, no operating late night, providing some different things to us with camera access for the location to try and keep the crime down, the fencing, lighting at the store, making it a full-service location rather than, putting up a window and not allowing folks to necessarily walk in and around the store where they can hide narcotics, which has been happening. Removing some of the advertisements in the window, which allows us a clearer view when we're going by to look for criminal activity. Rearranging the store, also for better viewing. Outside maintenance of the property with additional cameras. There's a large tree there that blocks a lot of the view from us. So, a lot of the calls for service we have are self-initiated by my officers that are on that premises, walking foot, driving, doing directed patrols. I have a lineage of calls for service where my officers have put themselves out that location, so the majority of them are self-initiated. There are also but in most recent time, there are also a whole other host of other calls in reference to disorderly calls for conduct, CDS, armed persons. Our ask at the time also was for them to increase their calls to service to the police for the store themselves, to increase calls for service to us, to assist them. I know it was kind of in the past taken as a sign if they had more calls for service that affected their business. It's actually kind of the adverse by their not calling us and notifying us of issues. It's actually seen more negatively on the business than it is if they call us, because we can tell where the calls are coming from and who's initiating the calls. So
But did you resolve your issues with them?
we only had the meeting 2 weeks ago, so it's kind of a work in progress. Nothing has been 100% completed.
Were they receptive?
They seemed receptive at the initial meeting. We did provide a logbook to them from the police department, from my officers to physically sign when they go in with dates, times, advising whether the location was secured, not secured. But like I said, a lot of the activity that has happened there has been much more minimal because I've had an officer literally pretty much stationed there 24/7 for the past several months.
Why is none of the police activity reported to the liquor board? We have no reports of any of this. The only violation we've had was 2 years ago for a sale to minors.
I got the notice of the hearing not that long ago. I was working on the padlocking of the location, and that's why we had our initial meeting.
So, we can't violate them if we don't hear about it.
Correct.
We weren't told about the shootings, we weren't told about anything. Okay. Did you have questions for the manager?
I did have a couple. Major Saunders, my clients have been in touch with, I believe, either you or, and I apologize, I get these all, the lieutenant that was at the meeting as well?
Sergeant Hines.
Sergeant, sorry. About cameras recently as well, right? They've been working on that. You guys have access now to the cameras. They're in the process of installing more cameras. They're talking about the full service, which is a significant shift and something that I think is going to be an ongoing change, but they're making the right steps. It's only been 2 weeks, but they are, not that you've seen significant changes given the short time period, but it appears they are engaged.
Yeah, the owner did approach me today about attending the community meetings there at Douglas Home, which is the primary property around that location as well, to try to be a better partner. That was one of our asks, was kind of being a good neighbor to remain in the community, but there are a host of issues associated with that property.
As far as you're aware, has the community reached out to the licensee or business in the past?
Not to my knowledge. They did reach out to me with the letters with the, basically kind of fear of walking by the property, choose not to patron the property because they're approached for sales of narcotics, approached by aggressive folks that are under the influence of alcohol, most likely. Like I said, been approached to purchase narcotics. Their concern is also that bus stop that's housed right there on the edge of that property. So there's just a lot of community safety issues, trash, urine bottles, feces on sidewalks, things of that nature, walking through the neighborhood, not necessarily on the property, but that they are associating with the traffic that's coming from that property.
There are 2 other businesses adjacent that are also kind of in this padlock protocol at some point, and they're not liquor establishments, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing further.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it, Major. Any, Councilman want to speak?
Hello, Councilman Stokes, 12th District. I just want to kind of, when I ride past Fayette Street every day, there's always activity in front of that building. Always. The young lady that got shot on the side of the building because of the congregation that's there. I just got HABC to hire private duty officers at Douglas. So what happens is, because of the violence at Douglas, but every time sometimes we have 14 police that cover one district. We got a police down there every day wasting city resources because what's happening, what they're only doing now is because he got pressure. He wasn't doing about no cameras because the pressure that came there. That even before, I don't know if he the original owner, but that corner, that location has been a problem. Not 2 weeks ago, not a month ago, years, even when this gentleman owned it. You told me why I didn't contact him. He didn't even contact the community association, and the only reason why he's coming to the meeting because of the added pressure he had. Why are we wasting city resources, sitting the police there all day long with all this crime that's going on in the city? We wasting one police car to sit there, sometimes 2, when you only got 12 officers. That don't make sense. So now he gonna put cameras. I am not agreeing to none of this until I see it. I done seen these hearings before, and people say they're gonna agree, and when we leave here, you gotta come back and nothing happens. So if he gonna, what the major said about agreeing, I wanna see that. I want to see it. I am not supporting this until he agreed to what the major and the community want. It's not fair to the community. All this violence is going on in the city, and we got 2 police cars sitting down there all day to stop all the activity that's going on in that building. And I want to read this. I saw that John Hopkins was against another license in Mount Vernon. I don't know why they weren't to get this license too. I guess they thought, I guess I would just want them to explain they don't want to help my constituents out, even though they're asking for the same thing in Mount Vernon we're asking for. I don't think it's even more confusing because the police are actually here saying how dangerous this place is. And I don't think the police showed up to Mount Vernon hearing. I don't understand why they do that. It makes me think that my constituents think the worst of them based on their history with black neighborhoods in Baltimore. When you had the hearing for Mount Vernon, Hopkins is right around the corner from there. They up on Fairmount Avenue, they on Broadway, and if you go down Broadway, they on Miami Street. Nobody from Hopkins protests this. This smells funny to me. But they wrote a letter for Mount Vernon. Again, I'm gonna say this again. Until he agreed, and the only reason why he doing this is because of the pressure. Until he agreed to them agreements, I'm not supporting this.
Thank you. Do you have questions?
Councilman? Sure. Sorry. Councilman, you're aware there's cameras at the premises, correct?
When did he get them?
They've had cameras since their inception.
When was that?
2013, it sounds like.
Okay.
You're aware that they asked for additional cameras and extra access to those cameras. Is that what you're aware of?
Who asked for the additional cameras?
Major Saunders.
So more pressure. Go ahead.
Were you at the padlock meeting?
No, I wasn't. I was at another meeting when I'm dealing with crime and education. And I can't always make all the meetings that you think I should be at.
Were you at the padlock meeting for the gas station next door?
No, I was not.
Were you at the padlock meeting for the store across the street?
No, I was not.
Are you aware that there was a tremendous shooting at the gas station next to the liquor store?
I'm sure it was. I don't remember.
Have you talked to the gas station owner?
No, I have not.
Have you talked to the liquor store owner, in fact?
No. The liquor,
Community talked to the liquor store.
I don't know, but you know, when you move into a community and you transfer your license, even if he don't talk to me, well, all of a sudden now he know where the community association at. Because he got a letter saying they was protesting or they was padlocking it. He's been there for a while.
Would you agree that communication requires two people to talk to each other?
Absolutely. But I'm saying, it's
As of
on,
today, besides the protest and the padlock, there's been no notice to this store from the community association or your office to resolve these issues.
I'm gonna say it again. We only here because of added pressure. Bottom line, we wouldn't even be here if the community or Major Saunders didn't put a police car or 2 cars there to sit 24 hours and waste city resources. It's pressure. That's why we are here now. This ain't just start overnight.
I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Did you want to?
Before I put witnesses forward, I would like to kind of revisit my motion to dismiss. It's been made explicitly clear that there were no specific instances in the petition. It's a requirement of rule, I believe,
I agree with you.
4406.
The petition is deficient on its face. I'm not sure whether it's not cured by the testimony, but.
I'm not sure how we're supposed to defend ourselves to testimony that we weren't prepared to.
But you do have the opportunity to cross-examine, whatever. But I'm not sure that that's dispositive of the case right now. So.
I also have concerns about the proximity, given the immediate vicinity. Certainly 200 feet, I understand, is not the board's purview, though I do believe case law indicates that's the range. We've had indications that the witnesses are as far away as 600 feet, which I think, I'm not sure that's an immediate vicinity situation.
As I said, I don't think the courts have decided that issue. I think
Well,
we're going to use a reasonableness standard.
I think Boyer v. State would indicate otherwise, but that's my opinion, unfortunately. I would have some supporters proffer that they are in support of the location, and I'll have them stand now indicating that they are in support of the location and they would like the license to remain and to be renewed.
Well, not all of them.
Ma'am, would you like to come forward? I'll just have one if that's okay, commissioners, just to be brief.
Good afternoon. I'm a supporter of this store.
What is your name,
What's your name,
My
ma'am?
name is Lavonda,
How do you spell your last name?
Mobley.
Mobley.
Yeah, I'm a supporter. First of all, I'd like to elaborate on a couple of things that were said right here. Let's go back to our, what is he, the councilman, the district councilman of our district? First of all, he only here because he want to shut the store down. That'll keep much work off of him. That's number one. Number two, if they had more police officers on the streets, then maybe they can get some help. I'm gonna just count it down. I'm not being smart. Number three, what is a person supposed to do? I've been in that store several times. When they telling the person, get out my store, you can't do that here, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then he get the crap beat out of him. I've saw that too. And then you call the police. Break it on down. The ladies that house face the back, they don't even live on that corner. If their house is a block and a half down the street, they can't see that because it's a whole nother building right there. It's a whole nother building right there, blocking them. Okay. The activity that happens on the bus stop is not these people's fault. That's on the corner of Caroline Street and Fayette Street. His store is off of that parking lot. And a lot of activity does happen on that part of the block. Okay. These people help a lot of the community out, whether y'all know it or not. This district councilman, you can never get in touch with him. So why does he want to be in touch now with this situation? Because there's one less problem he got to deal with. But if you're going to shut this liquor store down, it's two other saloons on the block. It's two other saloons on the block besides his store. Shut them all down. Make it sense. You know, for people to come here and try to shut this down, those schools been there. Those saloons been there. Those kids been walking there. In fact, my daughter was one of those kids a long time ago. She's 35 now. My kid was one of them. So all those saloons been there. All those problems been there. You know. So councilman, if he wants to step up, let's step up. Get these 500 police officers that they're short of. You know, get these other liquor stores and these people, get them some help on the corner. Hire social people. I work. I'm in the nursing field. And I took time to come here today because I'm going through something, issues, deaths in my family. So I was able to be here for these people. These people help the community. Don't shut them down. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
See y'all later.
Okay. Let's make it quick. That wasn't helpful.
Just add if there's new testimony, that's what
Your name, ma'am, please?
Oh, my name is Angelina Wells.
How do you spell your last name, ma'am?
Wells, W-E-L-L-S.
Good afternoon.
And I've been in the community for about 4 years. And when, going into his store, he do try to make his customers safe. And his family has gotten beat up because he's trying to protect his family and his community that comes in his store. I mean, they are very nice people, so they need their business, but they deserve to stay there because they do help out the community. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Commissioners have any questions?
No, Mr. Chair, I just, real quick, know we've been here a long time, but I just want to echo what you said earlier. What concerns me is that with the Baltimore City Police Department, as the major ones come up, she had stated that there were times that there were complaints made by the police officers, and the Baltimore City Liquor Board, we have inspectors, you have this board, so I'm just saying real quick, we're sitting here hearing this, but it seems that regards to, I use the word communication, is for the community, for 311 calls, and for the major, you have a police car, and I'm not sitting here to address anybody down, you have a police car there doing the operations, you know what I mean? Or even 2 police cars. I think there needs, Mr. Chair, there needs to be stronger communication between the police department and also with the liquor board. That's all I'm saying. I think that's what needs to be done.
Do you want to be heard?
Just very, very briefly, and yeah.
I think we're done.
I think it's clear that there are concerns in this area. I think concerns may be a way of putting it lightly.
But what's going to come of the discussion with the police?
We're meeting with them again, I believe, it was supposed to be June 9th, but that, yeah. We have a follow-up meeting.
And what happens as a result of these meetings?
There's a possibility they get closed as just a business.
But maybe is there some kind of an understanding? Does something get reduced to writing? What happens?
So
Can you speak into the microphone, please, Major? Thank you.
During our meeting, we presented some things that could help improve them in the neighborhood as good neighbors in that community. At that point, it did not seem that they were disagreeing with any of them. We actually did, which is something I started doing on my own, which I am in no way required to do. All 3 of the businesses that I actually put up for padlock, I actually physically went to their stores, did walk-arounds at their stores, pointed out some areas of concern, and gave them suggestions on how to approve it above and beyond in the actual meeting we had up in headquarters. So they could actually see what I was talking about. There was no confusion. I know that my drug unit sergeant has been working with them for access to camera footage and supplying us camera footage when an incident does occur there. We requested some additional cameras that could cover the property better. So the list of requests, I believe you wrote down in that meeting, right? And we are working through those requests.
Monitor their compliance?
So when we go to the follow-up in a few weeks, I mean, I can't expect him to snap his fingers, obviously, make all these corrections overnight. There are some financial things involved with doing all these things. So I don't expect him to be able to come up with the money overnight and do it. We will continue to watch the progress. It may involve additional follow-ups past the next one.
And what happens if they don't comply?
Then we will move to actually padlock the business.
That means shut it down?
Correct, for a year.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
There's no question the area, again, is troublesome. My clients received the padlock notice about a month and a half ago. We had the meeting 2 weeks ago. We received the protest about a month ago. We haven't had a chance to meet with anybody. Knowing that things are difficult does not mean that there are suggestions or that there's a communication for them to make corrections. They are actively engaged in that process now. We hope to continue that communication and the changes as well. We think that there needs to be a shift, not just them, but the other businesses around them, which also seem to be subject to some sort of difficulties as well. They're making those changes. It's difficult to identify the problems until someone tells you that there is a problem. And here, it just didn't happen until a month and a half ago. They're working to make those changes. They will not be here next year.
Okay, thank you. So, as I indicated earlier, the Liquor Board has no record of any of these problems at this location, and the petition itself, as we indicated, was deficient on its face for a specific complaint. But I think, in my view, the testimony did provide us with that information. On the basis of all the testimony and proffers heard, I'm going to vote to renew this license conditioned on the licensee's compliance with the Baltimore Police Department requirements. And that's it.
So based upon the proffers and the testimony, I too would vote to renew this license, subject to and conditioned upon the compliance of the licensee engaging with the police department. And I would urge that the police department, to the degree they're comfortable, that they include someone from the Liquor Board to be a part of those discussions so that we are all on the same page.
Yes, based on testimony and materials provided today, I also vote to renew the license. Again, the commission is subject to better communication between the licensee, the community, the police department, and especially with our liquor inspectors.
Ms. Russell?
I call exhibits for the record. Licensee Exhibit 1, petition of support.
Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. And that was the final matter on the board's docket today, Mr. Chairman.
Read the adjournment, please.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, Your Honor. The Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City shall stand in recess until Thursday, May the 4th, 2023, here in City Hall, room 215 at 10:30 a.m.
Thank you. Thank you to the commissioners of the board, all the participants today, and see you on May 4th.
All right. I'm out.